Hey guys, how are you all? Welcome back to my channel. Today we will see what if Kushina returns during the Chunin exams with her twins to kill Naruto. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments. The village hidden in the leaves, the strongest of the 5 great nations. The 9-tailed fox known as Kyuubi, strongest of all 9 Biju. The two were in an all-out war. Why Kyuubi? Minato asked himself. I thought we were friends, a family. Minato Namikaze, the 4th Hokage, looked towards his wife. Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze, mother of his children. She was so weak from having the Kyuubi ripped from her stomach. Who was that masked man? He asked himself. Minato? Kushina called weakly. Where are my babies? He looked at the 2 children in his arms. The eldest, Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze, and the youngest, Menma Uzumaki Namikaze, 2 blonde and blue-eyed babies. Both sporting whiskers on their faces. They're here, he answered softly. And the masked man? She was referring to the one that had forcefully removed the Biju from her. He's gone, Minato answered. He retreated after I hit him with a Rasengan. She smiled proudly at the man she loved. What's your plan? She asked. I'm going to reseal the Kyuubi away. He answered. Have you finally mastered the Uzumaki-tailed beast sealing method? She asked with hope. It vanished when he didn't answer. Minato? I didn't master it, making it too dangerous to use. He explained sadly. Instead, I'll use the dead demon consuming seal on her. But that'll cost you your life. She protested. And there's no guarantee that whoever you seal Kyuubi into will be able to hold her back. Or even survive the sealing process. The Hokage didn't say anything. Minato. She began worriedly. Who do you plan on sealing Kyuubi into? Silence. Minato. The father turned towards Kushina and gave her a kiss on her brow. I've sent for Makoto and Lady Hina. He spoke. They'll be here shortly. He placed Menma into Kushina's arms, but held onto Naruto. Don't do it, she begged. There's no guarantee that a non-Uzumaki seal can hold Q at bay. Trust me, he whispered. Goodbye. With his final farewell, he disappeared in a yellow flash. Don't do it, she wailed into the spot he once stood. Don't turn my Naruto-kun into a monster. He was already gone, never to return. Goodbye Naruto-kun. She turned to the child in her arms. Menma, you're all I have left. Minato stood on top of his summons, the Toad Chief, Gamabunta. Are you sure you want to do this? An aged voice asked. I could do it for you. Minato turned his attention from the demon to his predecessor, Hiruzen. You've already done enough in your time as Hokage. He spoke. As the Hokage, it's my duty to stop her. Minato began going through the hand signs for the seal that would stop the demon. Kushina. The redhead turned her attention from her son to see the 3rd Hokage. She didn't say a thing, she just stared at the child in Hiruzen's arms. How did the sealing go? Makoto asked. The Kyuubi has successfully been sealed into little Naruto here. Hiruzen answered. Would you like to hold your son? With those words, the dam burst. That thing is not my son. Kushina snapped. Kushina. The women spoke in shock. I only have one son, Menma. She held said baby tightly. Minato made sure of that when he used a non-Uzumaki seal to put that demon in my baby. My Naruto-kun is gone before he had a chance to live. They could see all of her hate and grief through her eyes. And as if he could sense that hate of his own mother, Naruto cried. I shall take Naruto with me for the time being. The 3rd spoke. As it turned out, the time being was longer than he had hoped for. It was a total of 6 months before Kushina finally acknowledged Naruto, and only through the Hokage's pestering. The bigger problem was that the day she acknowledged him was the day she left. Kushina, I beg you to reconsider this. Hiruzen begged. I no longer have a reason to stay in Konoha. She stated. Of course you do. Hiruzen protested. You have your son. We've been over this, I'm taking Menma with me. She stated. You know what I mean. He stated. Your firstborn son. Let me make this clear, Hokage-sama. She said respectfully, but her tone anything but. My first is dead, all I have is my Menma. Fine, what shall happen to Naruto? I want his status as the demon's host revealed to the village. She stated. But I don't want his father's name tarnished. That gave her an idea. I don't want the village to know that Minato was his father. You can't take his father's name away. He argued. I'll fight against that. But little Naruto has such powerful parents. Kushina stated sweetly. We don't want their enemies to know that he's alive. Imagine the danger he'd be in. Fine. Also, I renounce the Namikaze name from the child, but I'll leave him the Uzumaki. She stated, I want Kyuubi to know that it was my family that put her away, time and time again. That, and it keeps the major clans from adopting him. She thought, I beg you to reconsider. Hiruzen begged. He would have no choice in the matter. It was clan business, meaning that as Hokage, he couldn't interfere. Don't worry Hokage-sama, she spoke. I'll return with Menma, in time. Really? He asked in hope. Maybe she isn't entirely lost. Yes, we'll return. She spoke coldly, so that Menma can free Naruto's soul from the Kyuubi. She spat. Farewell Hokage-sama. With that, Kushina made her way out of the village with Menma in her arms. The wails of her abandoned child did nothing against her cold heart. Just as Kushina ordered, Naruto's status was made public. The village's reaction was expected. Anger, hate, fear, these emotions were all turned against Naruto, the innocent sacrifice. The villager did many things to hurt the boy, to break him. They tried beating him, starving him, poisoning him, even assassination attempts. But he would just get back up. He could deal with the beatings, he'd heal when they were over. No, the beatings weren't the worst things. The worst things were the words. The villagers would tell him things. Things about his parents. They would say that his parents abandoned him. That they left him to die. That his father was worthless and that his mother hated him. These things, these words, hurt the orphan more than the beatings ever did. He would often cry himself to sleep at night, calling to his mother. He never received an answer. Until that night. Why? He mentally wailed. He would have vocalized his question if he could, but he didn't have it in him. It was his birthday, which meant the beating was the worst one of the year. His bones were broken in several places. His flesh was torn and bruised from the fists and weapons. His body carried leftover chakra residue from the jutsus they used on him. He was too hurt to do much of anything. Let's get out of here. A villager said. The Hokage might be on his way. Right, the villagers spoke. They left the broken boy in a pool of his own blood, sure he'd bleed out. As they left, Naruto felt a warmth spread over him. It was a sensation that he'd grown to love and hate. He loved it because it made him feel safe. He hated it because it would heal him, never letting him die. Sometimes, if he was scared or angry enough, the feeling gave him power. It gave him the energy to run away from the villagers, to fight if he needed. After only a few minutes, he was barely able to stand on wobbly knees. Need to move. He needed to leave in case a random villager wanted to get a few shots in. He made it to an alley no one would be able to see him. He laid himself down and relaxed, soon he began closing his eyes. Just a little nap. Usually this wouldn't be a little nap for an average person, it would be their final sleep. Even with the wounds that have healed, Naruto had too many still fatal ones. But for the host of Kyuubi, a little nap was exactly what it was. Where am I? He asked no one. He looked around and saw the closed-off wall and water up to his knees. He realized that he was in a sewer. They threw me into a sewer? He asked out loud. That's new. Hello Naruto. The voice caught Naruto by surprise. It came from a large cage he hadn't noticed. Who's there? He asked frantically. Whenever he couldn't see anyone, that meant pain was coming. Do you hate me? His attention was drawn to the cage that he had just noticed. From the back of it walked a giant fox, as large as the Hokage monument. I am the Kyuubi, the demon spoke. I am queen of the kitsune and strongest of the tailed beast and the cause of the pain in your life. She continued, in a lower tone. Do you hate me? This explains a lot. He mumbled to himself. Naruto wasn't dumb, he couldn't afford to be. Doing so would have cost him his life. He was smart, prodigy-level smart, even for his age. But he had to hide it, all of it, or he'd suffer. Even more than he already did. Do you hate me? Naruto gazed at the giant creature before him in confusion. For such a powerful being, seeing her so vulnerable was a sad sight. Why would I hate you? You are suffering because of me. She answered sadly. No, I'm suffering because of those dumb villagers. He snapped. You may be a part of it, he admitted, adding to her sadness. But they are the ones that choose to make me suffer. His voice was so low, it was only her luck that allowed her to hear. They chose to give in to their hate and make me miserable. So, I don't hate you Kyuubi. He answered. Thank you, Kit, she said with such relief. Kit, Naruto whispered. It's the term for fox children. Oh, you are now healed. She spoke. Do I have to leave? He asked. No, you can stay. Honestly, she was happy that he wanted to be with her. Can you sing me a lullaby? He suddenly asked. Kit, the only lullaby I know isn't appropriate. She blushed, even through her red fur. I made it while in a rage. Then I definitely want to hear it. He chirped. Especially if it's original. Well, okay. She conceded before clearing her throat. Huss, someone here. She cut in. An old friend. As if those words were all that was needed, Naruto woke up. Naruto looked up to see that he was back in the alleyway. He suddenly felt a great deal of sadness. He was back in Konoha, back in hell. Hello. Wa? Naruto looked towards the source of the voice. He saw a woman. He couldn't make out much about her. He didn't want to. He just jumped to his feet and began running. Wait, I'm a friend. She shouted as she ran after him. As soon as she said that, he came to a complete stop. An old friend. Those were the words that Kyuubi had used to describe her when he was healing. He decided to trust her, a sign of good faith to Kyuubi. Who are you? Naruto asked. The lady came closer and took a look at the child and nearly let loose a sob. He was covered in blood, lots of dried blood. With the amount she saw, it was a miracle he hadn't been dead, an adult would have been. His clothes were torn, he was basically covered in rags. The parts of his body showing were just as awful. He was so malnutritioned that she could see his bones through his skin. The worst part was his eyes. His eyes were full of more distrust than a paranoid rogue shinobi. Behind the paranoia was a look that made him look old, and the distrust justifiable. Behind that, was bottled anger, sadness and something else. As she studied him, he studied her. He saw from the way she dressed that she came from wealth. Though what caught his attention was her eyes. They were large and pupilless, but had a light blue tint to them. Funny eyes. He thought to himself. Who are you? He repeated. I told you. She spoke kindly. A friend. Naruto sent her a glare. I've heard that before. He spat. I am Lady Hina of the Hyuga clan. She spoke with nobility. I am here to offer you a place where you can get a good meal and a little rest. I've heard that too. He spoke. People say that they're friends, even give me food only for it to be poisoned. He glared. Or they wait for me to relax before stabbing me with a knife. She frowned sadly as she heard those words. Kushina, you've done such a horrible thing. She thought. Abandoning your child. I have a child of my own. Hina spoke. Maybe you two can be friends. Why would you want that? Naruto asked. Not everyone hates you, Naruto. She spoke, using his name. Yeah, well, not everyone wants to help either. He spoke as he turned to leave. Good night. He was stopped when he felt a hand on his shoulder. He would have tried to break free, but then he felt her pull him into a hug. I want to help you. She whispered. If you let me. Naruto had barely heard the words come out of her mouth. He was more focused at how nice the hug had felt, how warm it was. So this is how a hug feels. He thought peacefully. He barely noticed her lead him out of the alley. This is where you live? Naruto shouted at the top of his lungs. He had taken one look at the Hyuga compound and saw that it was larger than his entire apartment building. Hina could only giggle at his outburst. Yes, this is where I and the main branch live. She answered. Though please try to keep your voice down, people usually prefer to sleep at this time. It was then that Naruto realized how late it was. The stars were high in the sky and most of the village was quiet. Most of the night owls were beginning to start their night. Sorry, he whispered. I'll be quiet. As if luck were against him, his stomach rebelled against his mouth. It let loose a loud grumble, demanding immediate attention. That's just bad timing. Naruto mumbled. Lady Hina would have found his pout along with the scenario cute and probably laughed, but couldn't. She had seen his stomach and knew that it was no laughing matter. Let me get you something to eat. She led him to the kitchen, which was bigger than his bedroom, and began working. He watched as she began pulling out specific ingredients that made him drool. You're making ramen, he said in a loud whisper. She blushed as she looked back at him. Yes, I apologize that my cooking skills are limited. Limited? Ramen is the best food in the world. He spoke a little louder. Then I hope I don't disappoint. She spoke as she handed him a bowl. Plenty more where that came from. She watched with a heavy heart as he ate the food with near desperate vigor. As if the food would abandon him if he didn't get it all down. Lady Hina? Naruto spoke. Yes? Who are they? She noticed him looking towards a picture of her and her closest friends. Makoto and Kushina. Old friends Naruto. she whispered. She froze when her husband walked in. He was Hiyashi Hyuga, the clan head. Hina, what are you doing up this? Whatever he was going to say died in his mouth when he saw Naruto. What's going on? Naruto stopped eating when he noticed Hiyashi's gaze, like the villagers. He slowly pushed the bowl away and tried to leave. What are you doing, Naruto? Hina asked, already knowing. I worked really hard on that, are you going to waste it? But, you best finish that ramen. She spoke in a less Hyuga-like tone. Yes ma'am. Naruto went back to eating his ramen, but with far less vigor. Hina, can I speak with you in the other room? Hiyashi spoke. It wasn't a request. What's wrong? Hina asked innocently. Don't play coy. He snapped. Don't you know what that thing was? He isn't a thing. She spoke. He's an innocent boy with a great burden. If any of the elders hear about this, or the other clans. He trailed off. How could you say that? Hina asked in shock. I will not have this discussion with you. Hiyashi snapped. Remove him or I will. Before she could retort, there was the sound of a window closing. Hina and Hiyashi made their way back to the kitchen, only to see it empty. The dishes were neatly set away and there was a note. Hina read it once to herself then out loud. Thank you Ms. Hina for being a nice lady. Sorry for getting you in trouble with your husband. I wish more people was nice like you. Love Naruto. At the bottom of the note was a chibi Naruto. Oh Naruto. She turned to her husband in disappointment. You and Minato used to best of friends, yet you do this to him, to his son. Naruto had overheard part of the argument the Hyugas were having. He had left, not wanting to cause Hina any trouble. Now he was back in his small and crappy apartment. Cold and alone. I wish I was back in the seal. He thought bitterly. That's sweet. A comforting voice spoke. Kyubi? He spoke in a loud whisper. Hello Kit, where are you? Naruto asked as he searched the room. In your head, she answered. Actually, I'm in your stomach. You shouldn't talk aloud, she warned. People may think you're crazy, and you never know who's listening. Just think and I'll hear it. Like this? He asked. Perfect. You said that Lady Hina was a friend, but I never met her before today. Is she a friend of yours? Well, not directly. Then how? It's late, go to sleep Naruto. Naruto wanted to protest, but was cut off by a yawn. His yawn. Good night. A new day was shining for Naruto, brighter than usual. The reason for this was that he had a friend, Kyubi. Maybe I should tell the old man about my new friend. He mused. That would be a very bad idea Kit. Kyubi warned. If you did that, they would just tighten the seal to make it so he couldn't talk. I understand, he hesitantly stated. With no real plan or responsibilities, Naruto did the one thing he could think of. He went to the park in hopes of making a friend. Unfortunately, he turned away by the parents of all the children, as always. I'm sorry. Kyubi spoke sadly. Naruto would repeatedly tell her that it wasn't her fault. Freak. Naruto heard some kid cry, that was nothing strange. What was strange was that the insult wasn't directed towards him. He turned his attention to the group kids picking on a single one, a little girl. They had to be at least a year or two older than he was. She had to be the same age as Naruto. But there was something off. From her eyes, he could tell that she was a Hyuga. A member of Lady Hina's clan. Since he didn't see a mark on her forehead, he knew that she was from the main branch. Help her, Kyubi urged. Naruto didn't need her to urge him on, he had already planned on helping her. Lady Hina had been nice to him, so he would return the favor. Hey, Naruto shouted. Get away from her. The kids had turned their attention from the little girl. What are you going to do about it? The lead kid asked as he stepped closer. Naruto said nothing, he just glared at the elder child. He felt something familiar growing inside him. What are you doing Kyubi? He asked. Just keep glaring, she ordered. He did as he was told and was soon rewarded. The kids began backing away before running away in tears. What happened? He asked. I made your eyes turn red. Kyubi answered. Check the girl. Naruto turned to see that the little Hyuga was picking herself from the ground. She began dusting herself off before she noticed him. Hey, what's your name? He asked. I'm Naruto Uzumaki. I'm Hinata Hyuga, she nervously answered. Thank you for saving me. Are you related to Lady Hina? He asked. She's my mom. Hinata answered. Ask her to play. Kyubi spoke. Would you like to play? Naruto asked. The girl nodded shyly. What would you like to play? Naruto was about to answer before he stopped dead in his tracks. He had no idea, no one ever wanted to play with him. What do kids usually play? He asked, more than a little embarrassed. I'm sorry, she cried apologetically, thinking he was being sarcastic. I don't have many friends, so I don't know many games. You didn't stutter. The comment caused the girl to lower her head in shame. Naruto noticed a sad look cross her eyes before she did. Hey, don't worry. Naruto spoke. I don't have any friends, so this is all new to me too. The shy girl raised her head and met Naruto's eyes. They're so blue, she thought. She turned tomato red. Here, Kyuubi spoke. Naruto's stomach began feeling very weird before the oddest thing happened. A small orb appeared from thin air. It was like a marble with a 9-pointed star in the middle. Naruto grabbed it and it expanded to the size of a kickball. Kyuubi, you're welcome. Want to play catch? He asked. She nodded enthusiastically. Naruto was having the time of his young life. He was playing a simple game of catch with Hinata and loving it. He never played catch with anyone before, it was fun. What is this? Then it all went downhill. The two children turned to see an Lady Hina and an enraged Hiashi. Father, what are you going with this boy? He asked. Where is you escort? I don't know. She answered, her stutter worse than ever. Pitiful. He sneered. Hiashi. Lady Hina exclaimed. Hiashi turned his angered gaze towards his wife. I will not have our daughter sully the Hyuga name by associating with him. He's just a child. Hina screamed. The first child Hinata has had make her smile. I will hear no more of this. He snapped. Return to the compound immediately. But, now, Lady Hina glared at her husband, but couldn't match the unjustified rage behind his eyes. She turned a softer look towards Naruto. I'm sorry, Naruto, she whispered. The blonde child said nothing, he was used to the anger. He just wished that his new friends didn't have to suffer too. He watched as Lady Hina left with Hinata. It's not fair, Naruto wailed. As soon as the Hyugas had left, he ran straight home and began crying. Kyuubi had pulled him into the seal where she used her tails as a security blanket for him. I know, Kit, Kyuubi comforted, but some humans just don't understand. Well, then I wish I wasn't a human. Naruto mumbled, low enough for her to hear. I wish I was more like you. He felt her stiffen under his hands at the comment. Do you really mean that? She asked. Yeah, he answered. I could make you like me. She offered. A kitsune. Really? Yes. Will there be any side effects? Naruto asked cautiously. 2. She admitted. You will instinctively be bound to our ways. And the second? You'll be a bit of. She trailed off before speaking up. What? You'll be a bit of a pervert. She stated. Kitsune are experts in the arts of seduction. I'll tell you why when you're older. Do it. It was a small price to pay. Done. Nothing was different. Naruto had felt exactly the same as before. He examined himself in the water, like a mirror, and began looking himself over. Nothing was different. Wait, my eyes are different. They were fox-like, but that was the only change. But what about my tails? He had been looking forward to that. To get them, you must either earn your tails or wait 100 years. She explained. I can't make you into a true kitsune unless you do so. How do I earn them? He asked. It's not something you can just go and do. She sighed. You must actually earn it in your own right. You must prove you have the heart of a kitsune. Kitsunes are pranksters, right? Yes. She already liked where this was going. Naruto was currently moving through the village with the stealth of a shinobi. His destination was the Hokage's office. He planned on pranking the Hokage himself. You never told me your plan, Kit. Kyuubi stated. I'm feeling a bit left out. I plan on stealing the old man's perv book or cut out the scenes that make him giggle. Naruto explained out loud. Impressive, she thought. Naruto had entered the village leader's office with surprising ease, not a guard in sight. Even the Hokage himself wasn't around. This is supposed to be the toughest place to enter in the entire village. Naruto stated. I'm not impressed. Neither am I. Naruto began looking around the office, it was so different at night. His eyes fell onto a picture of the fourth Hokage. The man who sealed me. Kyuubi stated. Hey Kyuubi. Naruto began fidgety. Why did you attack Konoha? I had no choice in the matter. She explained sadly. I was forced to do so by an old enemy of mine. How? Remember that ball I gave you to play with? She asked. That is a kitsune's life ball. Whoever has that controls the kitsune it belonged to. It is our most prized possession. If we are away from it for too long, we die. You let me use your life ball as a toy? Naruto asked incredulously. Yes. Will I have one? Since you became a kitsune, you already do. She answered. Would you like to see it? He nodded his head. Naruto's stomach began feeling strange, just as it did at the park. Soon another orb appeared before him, but it was completely blank. Cool. Naruto began looking through the drawers for the book. He stopped searching when he found an envelope with the symbol he wore on his orange jumpsuit. Did the old man get me a gift? Now he almost felt bad for pranking the village leader, almost. He would have opened it, but a memory struck. But Hinata still has the ball. Naruto spoke offhandedly. He was rewarded with a searing headache. Get my ball. He placed the envelope in his shirt for the time being, he would look at it later. Hinata sat in her room, silently weeping to herself. She clutched the ball they had played with tightly. She missed her friend Naruto, her first real friend. In just one meeting he had found a special place in her heart. Just the thought of him was able to make her stop crying and even brought a blush to her face. I know that look. A comforting voice spoke. You have a crush. Hinata jumped and looked at the voice. It was her mother. She was standing by her bed with a large and un-Hyuga-like smile on her face. Mom, how long have you been there? She asked as her face began heating up. Not important. She cheered. What's his name? Hinata looked away and began playing with her fingers. Well, I don't. It's Naruto, right? Hinata jumped in response to her mother's words. How did you know? Lady Hina placed a finger on her nose. A mother knows. She answered, suddenly pulling her into a hug. I'm so proud of you. She squealed. Let's go celebrate. Celebrate? Lady Hina leaned in as if she were going to whisper a secret. I heard that we just received a special order of cinnamon buns from the land of snow. Hinata nodded furiously. She had a cinnamon bun addiction almost as great as Naruto's ramen obsession. The Hyuga head turned, and received a kunai into her stomach, just above kidney. All-seeing eye my ass. A mysterious voice spat. Hiruzen had just entered his office, ready for anything. He had just been alerted by a special alarm in his office that an intruder had been rummaging around. Now he was giving his office a calculative look over, for anything out of the ordinary. There was no sign of forced entry, or chakra from any transportation jutsu. None of the items were out of place. It was all exactly as he had left it. Was the alarm faulty? He asked himself, knowing the answer. It was because everything was in order that he knew something was wrong. This was the job of someone truly skilled in the art of stealth. He needed to search as only a shinobi of his skill and experience could. Nothing was out of place, that was true. That didn't mean that there was something added. If it hadn't been for all of his years as a shinobi, he doubted he would have ever found it. A single blonde hair. Only one blonde in the entire village was skilled enough to break into his office at this or any time. Hiruzen relaxed, he even let out a small chuckle. Just Naruto pulling a prank. He mentally sighed. The Hokage made his way towards his desk. The village leader decided to get to work, he had a long day ahead of him. Since he was there, why not start early? Was this your plan? He asked himself. Making me deal with paperwork? He pulled open his desk drawer to grab his precious Icha book. Only to pale in horror. The book was still there. Something more important was missing. It was the document containing the information concerning Naruto's family. If Naruto read that, who knows what will happen? He panicked. I doubt the seal would contain his emotions. He only had one choice. Anbu. He had to stop Naruto. Naruto slowly made his way back to the Hyuga compound. As slowly and silently as possible, he climbed through the first open window he found. Sneaking through the window in the middle of the night? A low voice chastised, freezing him in place. Ah, young love. With a sigh in defeat, he climbed the rest of the way into the window. He slowly turned to the source of the voice as he prepared for his punishment. Naruto was greeted to a sight that broke his heart. Lady Hina, his friend, was laying near death in a corner. Her hand was covering the wound on her side as the blood just flowed through. She was deathly pale, obviously she had lost a lot of blood. Hina, he screamed as he ran to her side. Shush, she spoke. People are trying to sleep. What happened? He questioned. He took her Naruto. She began sobbing. He took Hinata. Don't worry, Naruto assured. We'll go save her after Kyuubi heals you. You know about. She sighed. There's nothing you can do, I'm already dead. She's right, Kit. Kyuubi agreed. But you've healed me from far worse. He stated. My chakra would be poisoned to her. She explained. Since she is not my host, she would burn out. Lady Hina saw the light in Naruto's eyes fade and knew from the flickering emotions that he was talking to the fox. When the light returned and he was saddened, she knew her assumption had been right. There was no hope for her. Naruto. She spoke weakly. I need you to save Hinata. What? The kidnapper isn't too far. She explained. I managed to weaken him before he escaped. She pointed past him. Head that way. But I can't do it on my own. He sobbed. She raised a hand to his cheek. Naruto. She soothed. You are never alone. Kyuubi has always watched out for you. And I always will. Okay, I'll save Hinata. Promise me. She begged. I promise. Please, let me go. Hinata begged. Her kidnapper, a cloud shinobi, looked down at her. Are you sure you're a Hyuga? He asked. You seem like you come from lesser stock. That struck a nerve in Hinata. She could only look away as the tears fell freely. Struck a nerve, did I? He taunted. Well, I've rested enough, let's get to Kumo. He reached for the heiress only to jump away. He did so in time to dodge a flying object, a rock. He looked at his attacker. Naruto. Hinata exclaimed. Naruto had caught up with them, using every ounce of his speed and stamina. In his hand was the kunai that had been used on Lady Hina. Let her go, Naruto shouted. She shinobi only barked with laughter at the child that was challenging him. Run along, kid, this has nothing to do with you. You have Hinata. Naruto growled. I promised that I'd save her, and I will. Naruto ran forward, kunai in hand. He's fast. If the Kumo nin had been paying attention, he would have noticed the blonde's red eyes. Naruto had jumped directly towards the enemy, intending to tackle him. The Kumo nin simply sidestepped and impaled Naruto in the back shoulder with a kunai of his own. Naruto didn't even flinch from contact with the weapon. He was used to pain. He simply turned and prepared for another charge. Impressive, but useless. He spoke. Why risk your life for her? She's my friend. Naruto answered. This was met with another bark of laughter. I almost forgot you were a child. This time, the ninja ran forward and gave Naruto a solid blow to the nose. It sent the child back to the ground. Naruto tried to stand, only to be knocked back down. The Kumo nin then placed a heavy foot on the blonde. Close to the kunai, he began adding pressure. Naruto tried to push himself up, even with the enemy's foot on his back. A brat shouldn't be this strong. He thought as he actually put in effort. He raised his foot and brought it down, hard. He repeatedly stomped onto the blonde child. When he stopped, he saw Naruto struggling to stand, but still glaring. Why is a snot-nosed kid risking his life for a spoiled brat? The nin asked incredulously. Do you intend to die for her? Naruto looked at the nin with hate, but his eyes began drifting over to Hinata. His gaze softened. He saw the heiress crying her eyes out. His mind wandered to his last memory of Lady Hina. Yes, Naruto whispered. What? Yes, I'd die for her. Naruto shouted. I promised Lady Hina that I'd protect Hinata. He began to pick himself up. I would die before I broke a promise to the first person that ever showed me kindness. I'd die before I let her debt go unpaid. The blonde gave another glare of determination. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, I never go back on my word. Naruto charged. He really was willing to die for this. Like a true kitsune. What? Naruto froze in mid-step, unable to move. The world around him began to fade. All he saw was Kyuubi. What happened? Naruto asked. I have to go back and save Hinata. The fox just stared down at the blonde kitsune with a blank face. Though her eyes held a bit of both amusement and pride. Did you mean it? She asked. What you said about never breaking your word to save her, even if it kills you, did you mean it? Of course. Did you know that kitsune never go back on their word? She asked. Their word is a part of who they are. You acted like a true kitsune. She smiled down at the child. You've earned this, you'll need it to keep your word. Naruto was back in the real world, still running. It was as if nothing had changed in the slightest. He suddenly came to a complete stop, confusing the Kumo nin and Hinata. He knew something was different. Hey, where did you get a tail? The nin asked suspiciously. The blonde gained a shit-eating grin at the question. Naruto ripped the kunai that was lodged into his back out. He didn't flinch. Naruto urged Kyuubi not to heal the wound, to let the blood fall freely. He began walking around the nin before heading towards him. You know, in class they think I'm not paying attention. Naruto spoke, much to the nin's confusion. Truthfully, I'm not. He admitted. Most of the stuff is useless, but I paid attention to one thing. As he spoke, he never stopped in his stride around the Kumo nin. Said shinobi just kept himself at a specific distance from the kid. All of his alarms were going off. This kid was dangerous. Yeah, what is that one T thing? He may not have known it, but Naruto had just herded the Kumo nin away from Hinata. Now the blonde was standing next to the heiress, much to the Kumo nin's annoyance. How to make explosive tags. Naruto answered as he motioned down. The Kumo nin looked down and paled at the sight before him. The kid hadn't been walking around as randomly as he had assumed. Naruto had been herding him into an explosive seal made out of blood. Naruto grabbed Hinata and jumped back a few feet. Boom! Naruto whispered. The Kumo nin had no way to escape. Naruto and Hinata looked at the spot the seal and man had been before the flash. Now there was nothing but fire. Or at least, that was what should have happened. Out of the fire limped the charged shinobi. I'll admit, I'm impressed. He snarled. But I'm a Jonin, did you think you could kill me that easily? It wasn't meant to kill you. Naruto admitted, though that would have been nice. It was meant as a signal. A signal? The Kumo asked confused. A shinobi village doesn't just have an explosion and not check it out. Naruto explained, especially with a missing heiress and murdered clan head. Already, leaf shinobi were beginning to surrounding them. From the numerous sources of chakra, there was a lot of them. How? He asked the child. We kitsune are clever. Naruto answered, low enough for only the man to hear. And we keep our word. Naruto watched as the foreign nin was apprehended. He had been able to hide his fox features under a fox illusion. Now he was busy comforting Hinata. She had just been informed of her mother. It'll be okay, Hinata. Naruto spoke. It'll be okay. From a distance, the third Hokage watched them with a heavy heart. He watched as Hinata held onto the blonde like a security blanket, and how Naruto tried his best to comfort her. He wanted to join, to help comfort, but he couldn't. Right now, he had to close his heart as a leader. Naruto. He called. Yes. In my office, you took an envelope. He began, the blonde nodding. I need it back. Naruto reached into his jacket to pull out the envelope. Sarutobi couldn't hold in his sigh of relief when he saw it was still sealed. Unfortunately, Naruto caught on. What's in the envelope? He asked. Naruto's suspicious eyes met with Sarutobi's Hokage eyes, not the kind eyes he once knew. The elder began reaching for the envelope. Nothing that's of importance. Naruto pulled the envelope out of his reach. Thanks to his new kitsune mind, he was processing everything in a different manner. It was less trusting and more calculative and curious. That's a lie, Naruto stated. If it weren't important, you wouldn't have been so relieved. He reasoned. Plus, I was comforting Hinata. You would never interrupt someone during a situation like that, unless it was dire. He glanced one at the envelope. Why does it have my seal on it? The Hokage snapped his finger. Suddenly Naruto found himself surrounded by 3 imposing leaf shinobi. Careful, Naruto. Kyuubi warned. One was wearing a dog mask with a weird standing hairstyle. The second was wearing a tiger mask. The third didn't wear a mask. From what he remembered, he was the father of his classmate, Ino. Maybe he can handle it. Hiruzen thought. Naruto, what I'm about to tell and show you is top secret. Hiruzen spoke. I don't know if you're ready for this, but I'm putting a lot of faith in you. He opened the envelope and handed Naruto a picture from inside. On the picture was a red-headed woman, the same woman from Lady Hina's picture. In her arms were 2 blonde babies. She held one with the tender care of a mother, but the other she held carelessly. Who are they? He handed Naruto another picture. Keep looking. This time it was the same woman, and Naruto. How can I be in this picture with this lady? Naruto asked. I've never met her before in my life. You're not. Kyuubi spoke sadly. What? That's not you. Hiruzen informed. That woman is Kushina Uzumaki Namikaze, your mother. And that boy is Menma, your twin brother. Naruto felt his entire body go cold. Where are they? He whispered. Why haven't I met them? I'm sorry. Kushina left you because of. He trailed off. I'm sorry. Because of. He tried again. Kyuubi. Naruto whispered. Now he understood, his own mother abandoned him. Naruto, how do you know of the fox? Hiruzen asked cautiously. Naruto stared the old man down. The shinobi were preparing for something. I know about Kyuubi because I've met her. Naruto answered. Yes, because of her. The third admitted. Fine, 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 I don't need her. Naruto spoke. I have all the family I need here. He motioned to his stomach. Run. Before Naruto could do as he was ordered, he was rooted to the spot. Literally, the roots from the ground had burst up and restrained his feet. They were quickly crawling up his entire body, holding him in place. Naruto, I can't have you talking to the Kyuubi. Hiruzen spoke. I'm going to have to separate you two. Why? Naruto asked the village leader. I can't have you using the power of Kyuubi in hate. Hiruzen explained. You are a liability, and as Hokage, I can't risk it. Kyuubi, help, he begged. There's nothing I can do. She replied. The wood is binding both of us. What are you going to do? Naruto asked. I'm going to have Inoichi erase your memories. Sarutobi answered sadly. Then I will seal the fox away. I don't want to be separated from you. Don't worry Kit, I will never leave you. She promised. And Kitsune never break their word. Can I have that lullaby now? Hush little Kitling, don't say a word. Kyuubi's earthquake will shake the world. Now Naruto understood why she didn't want to sing it to him. She really was in a rage, and was most likely in a new one. But if Konoha doesn't fall, fire comes at Kyuubi's call. Inoichi was beginning to going through some hand signs as he stepped closer to the bound child. He placed his hand onto the blonde's head. If Konoha doesn't burn, Kyuubi will make the ocean churn. Naruto's head hurt, he didn't know why, it just did. It probably had something to do with the man grabbing it. At least I have that nice voice. He thought, slightly soothed. But if Konoha doesn't drown, Kyuubi's tornado will blow it down. Naruto watched as the man let go of his head and old man Hokage walked up. In his hand was a brush and bottle of ink. And if Konoha stays as it's been, the Hokage began drawing the seals on the back of Naruto's neck. Kyuubi will start all over again. He was done. The markings began to vanish, hiding from plain sight. Naruto didn't hear the nice voice, he was sleeping. I'm sorry Naruto. Hiruzen thought. He picked the boy up and used the body flicker technique to get the boy home. He had laid the host down and gave another sigh of regret. Hiruzen watched as the blonde slept peacefully, though he was humming a lullaby. Sleep well Naruto. He turned to leave when he heard one line of the lullaby. So innocent from the boy's mouth, but it chilled him to the bones. Kyuubi will start all over again. He prayed the seal would hold. Naruto walked obliviously through the gates of his village. He and his team had just returned from a C-A rank mission. One that they had completed successfully. He looked at his said team. There was their teacher, Kakashi Hitaki, who they found out was actually a powerful shinobi. Then there was Sasuke Uchiha, Naruto's rival. Sakura Haruno, a smart girl and Naruto's love interest. Sarutobi was watching the village with his crystal ball, keeping guard. He was making a sweep of the entire village when he saw an image that made him pale. Two people at the front of his village. So this is Konoha? A young male voice spoke. Where you met Dad? Yes, this is our second home. A lady spoke. This is where Minato sacrificed himself, and where his son will join. She turned her gaze towards him. You know what to do. It was a statement, not a question. Yes, kill the demon and free my brother's soul. He stated automatically. The two made their way inside the village. I have to keep them from Naruto. He thought. Come on boss, please. Konohamaru pleaded. I can't, I've got my own training to do. He explained. You promised. Naruto looked at the kids in front of him, the Konohamaru Corps. Well, I did make a promise. He mumbled. For some reason, the idea of breaking a promise didn't sit too well with him. Alright, one game of ninja. Naruto stated. Then I have to go train. Thanks. A ninja playing ninja. A pink-haired girl spoke. How pathetic are you? Naruto and the K-Corps looked at the kunoichi, Sakura. She had just been turned down by Sasuke, so she needed her best stress reliever. Hey boss, who's this? Konohamaru asked. Is she your? He held out his pinky. Huh, like I'd ever date a loser like him. She snarked. Konohamaru didn't like this girl, putting his idol down for no reason. Well, you can do much better boss. He stated. A girl with a figure. The comment had struck a nerve in the pink-haired kunoichi. Run Konoharu. Naruto shouted. He was already running, the kids falling behind. They ran until Konohamaru crashed into a figure. That hurt you little brat. The voice spoke. It was Asuna Shinobi. Behind him was a female Suna nen. He grabbed the child in his grip and hefted him, smirking at the cry of pain. "Hey, put him down!" Naruto shouted. "What are you going to do about it?" the Suna nen asked. He began reaching for the bundle on his back. "Kankuro, are you going to start a fight here?" the Suna Kunoichi asked. "What if he finds out?" "Don't worry, Tamari," he spoke. All awe. He dropped the child with a cry of pain, grabbing onto his hand. Up in the tree was Sasuke, holding a rock in his hand. "Sasuke-kun," Sakura cheered. "Kankuro, what are you doing?" a new voice asked. In the tree next to Sasuke was a red-headed nen. "Gaara, I was just." "Shut up, or I'll kill you," he stated, silencing the boy. "I never liked how people would skip the or part." The redhead disappeared in a swirl of sand and reappeared by the other two. "I apologize for my brother." Gaara spoke. "Hey, is this just a big get-together?" a new voice spoke. All eyes turned to see Sarutobi Hiruzen. "Hokage-sama, Grandpa, old man?" The last came from Naruto, earning a blow to the head from a certain pink-haired Kunoichi. "Idiot, show some respect," she ordered. "It's all right, Sakura-san," the leader spoke. "It's refreshing that some sees me for more than just my title." He turned his eyes towards the foreigners. "I'll let this incident slide if you apologize and leave." "Thank you, Hokage-sama." The Suna nen, minus Gaara, did as instructed and left. The leader turned his gaze towards his ward. "Naruto, I didn't do it," the blonde stated. This earned a chuckle from the village leader. "Don't worry, Naruto, you aren't in any trouble, this time." "Then are you here to congratulate me for my mission with ramen?" he asked. "No, Naruto, I need to speak with you in private." The Hokage spoke. "It's important." Team 7 could only look on in confusion as to why the village leader would want to speak with the village idiot. "Hokage-sama?" a voice in he distance called. All eyes turned to see a red-headed woman and, "Naruto?" They turned their attention towards their Naruto. This Naruto was wearing a jacket similar to the fourth Hokage's, but it was blue at the bottom with a spiral on the back. He had two swords on the right side of his hilt. Even his hair was different, a raven black. But the Naruto was still there in him. He had the same facial structure and even the whiskers on his face. And the eyes, the blue eyes that only Naruto had ever had. His eyes had glazed over, as if staring at a long-forgotten memory. "Menma," Naruto whispered. "Naruto." Menma whispered. "Demon," the woman hissed. Naruto turned his attention to the red-headed woman. His eyes then changed from wonder to rage. A level of rage few had ever seen and lived to tell the tale about. "Kushina," he spat. A single hand went to Naruto's stomach, right where the seal was located. As Naruto griped his stomach, an aura of red chakra began to surround him. It seemed to spin around in a protective manner before exploding. It flailed around wildly and pushed those around him back with its raw power. "Naruto, stop," the village leader ordered. "Kushina." Naruto's appearance began to transform from the fox's power. His eyes began to slant as they became red with fox-like retinas. His nails on hands and feet began to grow into claws. He hunched over as a tail and ears began forming in the chakra. "Get ready, Menma," Kushina ordered. "This is what you trained for." Menma said nothing as he prepared to confront Naruto. "Naruto." All eyes turned to the newcomer. Hinata? Hinata Hyuga ran towards Naruto and, despite the red chakra, tackled him into a hug. As soon as she came in contact with him, the chakra began to fade, not wanting to harm Hinata. "Calm down," a voice spoke. Normally, when you hear a voice in your head, you think the worst. For Naruto, this voice seemed familiar and comforting. He did as the voice told. He began massaging his head. For some reason, he had a massive migraine, as well as feeling lightheaded. "What was I doing?" Naruto looked around, trying to find out what was going on. He was currently on the ground with a girl from his class on top of him. His teammates were looking at him with slight fear. "Who are they?" Naruto asked out loud. "Is he for real?" Many of them thought. "Baka, how do you not know them?" Sakura asked in outrage. "You just said their names while going crazy." Before Naruto could speak, he felt Sarutobi place a hand on his shoulder. "Naruto, we need to talk in private." The leader spoke. Naruto began to pull himself up, along with Hinata. "Hey, you're that girl from class, right?" he asked. Hinata. The girl just looked down at the ground, trying to avoid his gaze. "Is he starting to remember?" she asked herself. Hey, we aren't through here. Kushina shouted. They all turned their attention to the red-headed woman. But no Menma. Hey, let me go. Naruto shouted. They turned to see that Menma had Naruto in a painful-looking grip. He had Naruto angled so that he could see the back of his neck. After adding a little chakra, he could see the seal becoming visible. Pathetic. He mumbled as he examined it. This is just sloppy work. He released Naruto and began making his way towards Kushina. What are you doing? She asked in outrage. You had a perfect chance right there. Menma answered without looking at his mother. I came to kill a demon. He mumbled. Not a dumb kid. The one named Menma disappeared in a swirling water body flicker. The redhead followed. Naruto stood in front of the third Hokage in utter confusion. He had just been told that he had a family. The news, for some strange reason, made his head hurt. He noticed the Hokage tense when he rubbed the spot where it ached most. Be calm, the voice advised. He decided to listen. Naruto, have you been feeling strange lately? Hiruzen asked. Heard any voices or images you can barely remember? In fact, he had. Ever since the Wave mission, he's been having dreams about a funny-eyed lady and daughter. When he was alone or his emotions were in a small loop, he would hear a comforting voice. Thank you. Like that. But as soon as it came, it left. He just couldn't seem to bring his mind to focus on it. No. Naruto lied. Can I go? The aged leader eyed the child for a second before nodding. I hope we can speak later. He spoke. Maybe over a bowl of ramen? Sure. Naruto answered, but without his usual gusto. The blonde had just made it out of the office when he was confronted by his team. Hey, dead last. Sasuke called. Who were those people? He asked. And where did that power come from? Tell nothing. Usually he would have gone through a whole tirade with the Uchiha, but something was pulling him back. He just walked by them without so much as sparring them a glance. They didn't take too well to that. Hey, Sasuke-kun is talking to you. Sakura shouted, only for him to keep walking. Don't you ignore me. She had made to punch the blonde, only for him to catch it. He sent a slit-eyed glare towards the wannabe kunoichi, freezing her in place. Sasuke moved in to intervene. Not to help Sakura, he was just using the opportunity to put the dead last in his place. He stopped when he felt a point in the center of his back. Turning his head slightly, he saw that it was Naruto. He had created a clone. But how? The Uchiha asked. When? It had been outside of his skill. Naruto looked at the team, the ones he worked with. It just occurred that he didn't trust them, he didn't even like them. And he was supposed to put his life in their hands. What's going on here? Kakashi asked. Nothing. Naruto answered. Just a little sparring. The Uchiha's pride wouldn't allow him to admit Naruto got the drop on him. Yeah, just a spar. Sasuke agreed, as predicted. Kakashi knew that they were lying, but to call them on it would shame Sasuke. Well, I have something for my cute little genin to sign. He looked to see that Naruto was already gone. I'll give it TT to him. A new voice offered. Kyuubi was having mixed feelings. On one paw, she was closer to being back with Naruto. The seal that the Hokage had placed on him was weakening, thanks to Wave. With Naruto using so much of her chakra, she could fight against the seal. Her influence over him was already growing. Soon the seal would break, then he would regain his memories and tail. On the other paw, his family. With their added presence, they would throw Naruto's emotion out of whack, probably enough to break the seal. While neither had a problem with Menma, there was the matter of Kushina. Obviously she wouldn't pass the chance to pass her hate onto Menma. It was just a matter of how strong her hold on him was. Soon, she promised. Soon. Why did I lie to Sensei? He didn't know why, but something had told him that he couldn't trust his sensei. His hair, it reminded him of a night he couldn't remember, and dogs. Why can't I remember that night? He asked himself. Naruto. The blonde turned to see a pair of funny eyes. Lady Hina. He whispered. What? Hinata asked in shock. What? Naruto asked in confusion. What's that? He asked, motioning to the paper. Oh, it's from you team? She answered. For the Chunin exams. He read over the paper once before turning his attention to Hinata. I'm about to go get some ramen. He stated. Want to join? Like a date? She asked. Sure. He answered obliviously. Are you starting to remember? She wanted to ask, but didn't. Naruto and Hinata had actually enjoyed their time together. Naruto felt like he was hanging with an old friend, though he didn't know it was true. Hinata, if only for a moment, she felt as if her old Naruto was back. Now he was going to the Chunin exams. Naruto was waiting for his team to arrive before he entered. So you showed up. Naruto turned to the source of the voice to see Menma. Menma, listen what's going on here? Kushina asked, appearing from behind him. Nothing. Naruto answered as he walked inside the building. He could wait for his team on the inside. Hey, let us through. A bun-haired girl spoke. Naruto and his team were currently watching as other shinobi tried to get through the door. He, however, knew that the real door was on the next floor. This was just a test to weed out the weak. His team just brushed away his voice before he could get a word out. So you all decided to come. Kakashi spoke. Good. What are you doing here, sensei? Sakura asked. I just wanted to make sure all my cute genin decided to come. He stated. If one of you decided to skip, none of you could participate. With nothing more to say, he stepped to the side to allow the children inside. The group from Konoha decided to conjoin together. Naruto saw that along with his team, the entire group was made up of the clan heirs. There were 2 teams that didn't join the huddle, a team from the previous year. And one with a silver-haired ninja that smelled like snakes. So we're all here, huh? Kiba asked. Even the dead last? Stay calm. The voice ordered. Repeat after me. So Kiba, has your master decided to give you your flea bath yet? Naruto asked, causing Kiba to growl. Akumaru, you really need to keep him on a tighter leash. The entire group began laughing, as well as Akumaru. What you say dead last? Kiba shouted in outrage. The Inuzuka heir would have lunged for Naruto, only to find himself restrained by a black chain. They all turned to see Menma was the source of the chains. That tight enough for you? He asked. Who the hell are you? Kiba asked. Hello Menma. Naruto greeted. You all should keep it down, you're drawing unwanted attention. A new, silver-haired nin spoke. They turned to see that all eyes from every other village was indeed on them. All sending a small wave of killer intent towards them. Naruto heard a gasp and saw Hinata shake in fear. This didn't sit well with him. He took a protective step in front of her and glared back. His eyes flashed red as his killer intent trumped the other participants. What the hell, Naruto? He didn't hear who it came from. Stop. He did. You're getting there. Menma stated. Just a bit more. Who are you? Sasuke snapped. Where is he getting? I believe I can shed a bit of light on that. The now named Kabuto stated as he pulled out a card. His name is Menma Uzumaki Namikaze, son of the 4th Hokage and Kushina, whirlpool heiress known as the Red Hot-Blooded Habanero. Many shinobi took a step back. Those were 2 of the strongest shinobi produced by Konoha. The Avenger decided to take a step forward. If you're so great, why don't you have a team? Sasuke asked. Kabuto answered. He's here as an apprentice. What, you're related to that guy? Sakura asked Naruto angrily. Why didn't you tell us? Naruto Uzumaki. Kabuto spoke. Banished heir to the Namikaze name. He stated. The only reason given is a quote by Kushina. He's not my son, he's a demon. Alright maggots, sit down. The proctor spoke. Naruto had barely made it through the last test before he realized it was a sham. Thanks to his new method of thinking, he was able to figure out the truth to it. He was still happy Hinata offered to let him cheat off of her. Why is she so nice to me? Hey, pay attention, Sakura shouted, pulling him from his thoughts. What's going on? He asked. We have to get a scroll from the other team. Did you listen to anything the proctor said? No, Naruto admitted. Useless, Sasuke stated. Alright, a word of advice. Anko spoke. Done or die. With that, the second part of the Chunin exams began. Ouch. Everything hurt. He had been jumping through the trees with his team, when out of nowhere, a wind blows him a mile back. Something told him that it wasn't an everyday, freak of nature moment. Get up. Something about the urgency in the voice urged him to quickly move. It was just in time. A snake the size of a tree had just lunged for the spot he had been in. What the hell? Why are you trying to eat me? Naruto asked. The snake didn't answer. It just kept its hungry gaze on him, preparing for another strike. Whoa snake. Naruto watched as a single black chain wrapped itself around the snake's neck, halting it mid-strike. With a powerful tug, the snake was sent into a large boulder, hard enough to dispel it. As the chain retracted itself, Naruto's vision followed. Menma. Hello, brother. Hinata and her team were jumping through the trees at full speed. They already had their needed scrolls, thanks to Shino's plan. Man, these exams are too easy. Kiba stated. We'll be Chunin before we know it. You shouldn't brag until the ask is completed. Shino stated. No sweat Shino. Kiba stated. I mean, the dead last made it this far, it's in the bag. I wonder how Naruto-kun is doing. Hinata mumbled, not stuttering. Who cares? Kiba stated. If we're lucky, so team finished him off for good. Don't say that. Hinata stated in uncharacteristic anger. He wouldn't leave me like that. Why do you care about him so much? Kiba asked. He's a nobody. He's the son of a Hokage. Shino stated. He's more than that. Hinata stated. He's Quite. Shino stated. We're being watched. Team 8 came to a halt. Hinata activated her bloodline, the Byakugan. With it, she could see the hidden enemy. Kiba began sniffing, trying to find any source of smell from the enemy. Shino sent his bugs to find the enemies while being inconspicuous. Who would notice a bug? Menma. Whatever Naruto was going to say was cut off by a kick to the gut. The blow forced him to kneel over, where he was greeted with an uppercut. Come on, Menma shouted. Fight me demon. He threw another punch that Naruto barely dodged. I'm not a demon, Naruto shouted, and I'm not going to fight you. Menma stopped in his assault and gave a deep scowl. He had come to kill a demon and free his brother's soul, not fight a fool. He would not be denied. No choice, he mumbled. He pulled out a seal and placed it on Blonde's head. What are you doing? Naruto asked as he struggled in vain against his brother. I was raised to kill a demon. Menma stated. I won't be denied my purpose. Naruto froze up as he felt the seal activate. His head began to hurt, as if it were being filled with something. The perception was close. In truth, a veil had been lifted from his mind, and memories were returning. At last, Kyuubi shouted. The seal that took him away from him was breaking. Naruto was free. His memories were returning. She was so overjoyed that she couldn't contain herself. She sung, Hush little kitling, don't say a word. Kyuubi's earthquake will shake the world. Now Naruto understood why he wasn't in his right mind, he remembered. But if Konoha doesn't fall, fire comes at Kyuubi's call. He remembered everything the village did. If Konoha doesn't burn, Kyuubi will make the ocean churn. Naruto remembered the first person from the village to show him kindness. I have a child of my own. Hina spoke. Maybe you two can be friends. Why would you want that? Naruto asked. Not everyone hates you, Naruto. She spoke, using his name. Yeah well, not everyone wants to help either. He spoke as he turned to leave. Good night. He was stopped when he felt a hand on his shoulder. He would have tried to break free, but then he felt her pull him into a hug. I want to help you. She whispered. If you let me. Naruto had barely heard the words come out of her mouth. He was more focused at how nice the hug had felt, how warm it was. So this is how a hug feels. He thought peacefully. But if Konoha doesn't drown, Kyuubi's tornado will blow it down. Naruto remembered meeting the first person going through similar torment for being different. Freak. Naruto heard some kid cry. That was nothing strange. What was strange was that the insult wasn't directed towards him. He turned his attention to the group kids picking on a single one, a little girl. They had to be at least a year or two older than he was. She had to be the same age as Naruto. That person that would become his friend. Would you like to play? Naruto asked. The girl nodded shyly. Would you like to play? Naruto was about to answer before he stopped dead in his tracks. He had no idea, no one ever wanted to play with him. What do kids usually play? He asked, more than a little embarrassed. I'm sorry. She cried apologetically, thinking he was being sarcastic. I don't have many friends, so I don't know many games. You didn't stutter. The comment caused the girl to lower her head in shame. Naruto noticed a sad look cross her eyes before she did. Hey, don't worry. Naruto spoke. I don't have any friends, so this is all new to me too. The shy girl raised her head and met Naruto's eyes. They're so blue, she thought. She turned tomato red. Here, Kyuubi spoke. Naruto's stomach began feeling very weird before the oddest thing happened. A small orb appeared from thin air. It was like a marble with a 9-pointed star in the middle. Naruto grabbed it and it expanded to the size of a kickball. Kyuubi, you're welcome. Want to play catch? He asked. She nodded enthusiastically. And if Konoha stays as it's been. Naruto's neck hurt at the memory of one being who he really was. Well, Then I wish I wasn't a human. Naruto mumbled, low enough for her to hear. I wish I was more like you. He felt her stiffen under his hands at the comment. Do you really mean that? She asked. Yeah, he answered. I could make you like me. She offered. A kitsune. Really? Yes. Will there be any side effects? Naruto asked cautiously. 2. She admitted. You will instinctively be bound to our ways. And the second? You'll be a bit of. She trailed off before speaking up. What? You'll be a bit of a pervert. She stated. Kitsune are experts in the arts of seduction. I'll tell you why when you're older. Do it. It was a small price to pay. Done. Of earning it. Why is a snot-nosed kid risking his life for a spoiled brat? The nin asked incredulously. Do you intend to die for her? Naruto looked at the nin with hate, but his eyes began drifting over to Hinata. His gaze softened. He saw the heiress crying her eyes out. His mind wandered to his last memory of Lady Hina. Yes, Naruto whispered. What? Yes, I'd die for her. Naruto shouted. I promised Lady Hina that I'd protect Hinata. He began to pick himself up. I would die before I broke a promise to the first person that ever showed me kindness. I'd die before I let her debt go unpaid. The blonde gave another glare of determination. I'm Naruto Uzumaki, I never go back on my word. Naruto charged. He really was willing to die for this. Like a true kitsune, Kyuubi will start all over again. He remembered the betrayal. The roots from the ground had burst up and restrained his feet. They were quickly crawling up his entire body, holding him in place. Naruto, I can't have you talking to the Kyuubi. Hiruzen spoke. I'm going to have to separate you two. Why? Naruto asked the village leader. I can't have you using the power of Kyuubi in hate. Hiruzen explained. You are a liability, and as Hokage, I can't risk it. Kyuubi, help, he begged. There's nothing I can do. She replied. The wood is binding both of us. What are you going to do? Naruto asked. I'm going to have Inoichi erase your memories. Sarutobi answered sadly. Then I will seal the fox away. I don't want to be separated from you. Don't worry, Kit, I will never leave you. She promised. And kitsune never break their word. Naruto opened his eyes as was greeted to a giant fox. Kyuubi, he spoke. He spoke in awe. I told you, Kit, that I would never leave you. She finished. And we kitsune never break our promises. Naruto stated with a smile. Naruto. Menma called. I remember. His brother spoke. What do you remember? He asked. Do you remember who and what you are? Yes. The blonde answered before standing. I am Naruto Uzumaki Namikaze. His eyes met Menma's. The kitsune child of Kyuubi. Good. Menma shouted. He threw several kunai with explosive tags attached. They landed around the blonde, cutting off his escape. They went off on a tower of flames. But in the flames stood the unmoving figure of Naruto. Sorry, but that won't work on me. Naruto stated as he walked from the flames. Apparently I'm a fire kitsune, not a water one. Menma was taken back by what he saw. There stood his brother in the way he hadn't expected. This Naruto had fox ears and a tail. I know what you want, Menma. I know that Kushina filled your head full of lies. Naruto stated. We'll have to settle it another time. What makes you think I'm just going to let you leave that easily? Menma asked, drawing another kunai. I left the minute the bombs went off. The blonde stated, covered by the explosive flames. To prove his point, Naruto went up in a puff of smoke. He had been nothing but a clone. Menma stared at the spot his brother had been. He felt a sense of pride that his brother was that good. So this is what brotherly love feels like, he thought. He continued on his way. He had an exam to finish. The thought of the competition made him reach for his own scroll. Where the hell is he? Stole my scroll. That foxy bastard. Menma mumbled. Hinata was terrified. She and her teammates were fighting as hard as they could, but the battle wasn't going in their favor. Is this it? One of the enemies asked. They were going against a team of Kumo Nin. Hinata had always had a fear of them since that night. The night she lost both her mother and her Naruto. The worst was the leader. Is this all you have? He asked. Show me how you beat my father. The leader of the group was the son of the Chunin that attempted to abduct her that night. Is this it? She thought. Is this how I die? Her one regret was Naruto. She had not confessed to him. She hadn't been strong enough to be by his side. Naruto. Naruto. She mumbled. What was that? He asked. Speak up, bitch. You promised. She spoke. I promised what? The Kumo Nin spoke. You're not making sense. Has fear made you go crazy? Naruto, she cried out. You promised that you would protect me. The two other combatants paused in their own battle at the girl's cry. What the hell? Another Kumo nin spoke. Enough of this. The leader spoke as he raised a kunai. I'm ending this. He would have killed Hinata then and there hadn't he noticed a flash of light moving towards him. He jumped back in time to see it consume Hinata. Fire! Hinata! Her team cried. The flames had burned everything in their path. Trees had severe burn marks and chunks missing from the damage done. Looks like someone did the work for you. One of the Kumo nin spoke. Yeah, but I wanted to kill her. The leader mumbled. Kill? A voice spoke. Are you trying to say that I can't keep my promise? All nin, leaf and Kumo turned to the fire. In it stood Naruto, holding Hinata bridal style as she clung to him. He walked from the flames as it dissipated. Both of them were unharmed. The hell? Hinata, you think that I would break my promise to protect you? Naruto stated. I would die first. Naruto. She spoke, hope growing. Do you remember? Yes. Hey. Both Kiba and the Kumo leader shouted. Who the hell is this blonde fool? One of the Kumo nin asked. Dead. The third answered. Let's get this over with. Naruto stated. He raised a single hand, extending only his finger. On it was a small flame that danced around. Naruto began waving his flaming hand for added affect. The nin, leaf and cloud alike kept their eyes on it. That was their mistake, being distracted. Each of the Kumo nin fell to a kunai in the back, a Naruto clone behind them. The clones began rummaging through the dead shinobi's items, taking their weapons and scroll. What the hell? Kiba asked in anger. How did you beat them so easily? He distracted them with the fire and had a clone attack them from behind. Shino explained. Simple but effective. Well, I'm as sneaky as a fox. Naruto chuckled. Naruto turned and began walking away, Hinata still in his arms. Hey, where are you going with my girl? Kiba asked, still angry. Your girl, are you two dating? Naruto asked with an edge in his tone. No, Hinata answered quickly. Then she's not yours, as you so stated. Naruto countered. I too would like to know where you're taking my teammate. Shino stated. I'm going to find the others of Team 7 and finish this exam. Naruto explained. I'm taking Hinata to make sure she stays safe. He turned an eye to Team 8. You're welcome to come. Shino nodded while Kiba grumbled as he followed. Hinata, can you tell me what direction they're in? Not once had Naruto sat Hinata down since the rescue, much to Kiba's ire. Damn you dead last. He couldn't stand to see his claim in another's arms. He would have said something, but decided to keep his mouth shut. Naruto would screw it up, all he had to do was wait. They had found Team 7, while Sakura, being attacked by a sound nin. It seemed that Rock Lee had appeared to give her a hand, but wasn't faring too well. Let's go. Naruto spoke. No way. Kiba stated. This is your problem, you deal with it. Let Hinata see how weak you are. Kiba thought. What I'm sure my teammate is trying to say is, we can't help. Shino explained. That fight took too much out of us. I understand. Naruto calmly spoke. Don't worry, Kitsune always get what they're owed. Kyuubi assured. He saved them, they owed him big time. Naruto placed Hinata onto a branch and dropped down. Well, looks like we'll have to kill you all with Sasuke. Dosu stated. Sorry, but I can't have you killing my teammate. Naruto stated. I need him to help me pass. More leaf nin. Dosu stated. They're appearing like roaches. Naruto walked into the middle of the field, between the sound nin and his team. He eyes his surroundings, allies and enemies, taking everything into account. Okay, I'm ready. Do me proud. Naruto charged and delivered a punch to Zaku, hitting him on the side of the head. This put him off balance, but not out of the fight. Naruto was still close after delivering the punch, too close to actually dodge. Slicing airwaves. He fired at full power, hitting Naruto point blank. He thought. In truth, what he hit was just an illusion. The real Naruto was behind him, hidden under a small genjutsu. The airwaves actually hit Dosu, who had been charging at the fake Naruto from behind. This sent him into a tree, knocking him unconscious. Shit, Dosu he fell silent, thanks to a chop to the neck from Naruto. Before he fell to the ground, Naruto reached into the sound nin's pouch and pulled out a kunai. He sent it sailing to a tree, beside Kin's head. Take your team and leave. Naruto ordered. She gave a terrified nod before grabbing them and leaving. As soon as they were gone, Naruto turned to his team. Only to see Sasuke covered in tattoos and foul chakra. That's new. Check your pocket, Kyuubi ordered. You have a gift from Menma. Naruto did. He pulled out a seal. And a letter. If you somehow get past me, your team is in a bit of trouble. Our mother and I have been keeping an eye on a certain snake and thought this would be useful. Until I kill you, Menma. P.S. Dodge. Naruto did, just in time to avoid a kunai to the head. Damn, my brother's good. Naruto thought with a bit of pride. Before Sasuke could do anything, Naruto placed the seal onto his head. Okay Kiba and Shino. Naruto called to the trees. I'm cashing in on your debt for saving your hides. He pointed to his downed comrades. Before you whine, I will collect my debts, one way or another. And pay back those who wronged us. Kyuubi spoke to him. Menma watched as his brother's team, as well as Team 8, arrived to the building. He noticed that Naruto was extremely close to the Hyuga girl. It seems he wants to keep a few secrets. Menma thought. Like a previous meeting of his, he still had chills at the memory. Menma was searching for another set of scrolls after his brother had stolen his. Well, what do we have here? A disembodied voice spoke. A little whirlpool is lost among the leaves. It chuckled. I thought you'd be fox hunting. Menma froze. Whoever he was talking to knew too much to be a mere genin. Just finished, they're tricky creatures after all. He spoke, trying to stay calm. He couldn't tell where the voice was coming from. That was bad. That meant the stranger was far more skilled than he was. Now he had to decide if it was his friend or foe. I have no scrolls, he admitted. The fox got away with it. Well, would you like some assistance in your fox hunting? The voice asked from behind. Menma turned and froze. He was face to face with Orochimaru of the Sannin. The S-ranked traitor to the village and enemy to even his allies. Hello Snake. He greeted, trying to place tough. What do you want? As he talked, he began walking with a foot dragging. I can give you power against your fox infestation. The snake offered, never taking his eyes away. What would you like in return? Menma asked. Just a little more. I know about the seal you gave that sealed away Sasuke-kun's curse mark. He stated as he began licking his lips. I could use a person of your skills, join me. So that's your game. Menma realized. Finished. No. Menma answered as he began walking away. Too bad. Orochimaru mock sighed. But I can't let you live knowing about me. Menma turned around and smirked at the snake man. Boom, he whispered. Orochimaru's eyes widened as he looked down. While walking, Menma had made a seal in the ground. He had made an explosive seal. With Orochimaru right in the middle. Menma sighed at the memory. As soon as the explosion went off, he had made his way towards the nearest team and stolen their scroll. Now here he was, listening to the Hokage tell the true meaning behind the Chunin exams. If any of you wish to forfeit, now would be the perfect time. The aged leader spoke. Nan did. First match Sasuke vs. Yoroi. Canon Sasuke wins. Shino vs Zaku. Canon. Shino wins. Kankuro vs. Stretchy Guy. Canon. Kankuro wins. Sakura vs Ino. Canon. Tie it was an awful fight. Tamari vs Ten. Canon. Tamari wins. Shikamaru vs Kin. Canon. Shikamaru wins. Gaara vs Lee. Canon. Choji vs Dosu. Canon. Now for the uncanon fights. Hello Kakashi-kun. A voice spoke. Kushina-sama. He greeted. It's so wonderful to see you. He turned his eye towards the black-haired child by her. Hello Menma, it's nice to meet you. You as well. Menma returned. All three turned their attention to the fight. Naruto vs. Kiba. I can't believe we get to fight the dead last, this fight's in the bag. Kiba declared. They watched as Kiba and Naruto made their way down to the arena. So Kakashi, what skills does he possess? She asked. Kakashi turned and gave her an eye smile as he answered. He possesses none whatsoever. He stated. I made sure of it. Minato would be proud of you. Kushina stated. We can finish what he started. Why else would he seal the demon in our child with a seal like that? She thought. I wouldn't be too sure. Menma stated. What do you mean? I faced off against him in the woods. Menma stated. He has skill. He never had any proper training from me. Kakashi stated. I was busy training Sasuke. Well, foxes are clever. Menma declared. Naruto had been listening to the conversation the entire time. He was not surprised. "Hey, pay attention," Kiba declared. Naruto turned his eyes towards his opponent. He gave his biggest and foxiest smile, which unnerved Kiba. It didn't help that Akumaru began whimpering before barking his worries. "What do you mean he smells like a fox? He's always smelled like a fox," he stated. "Let's show them how wrong they are." Kyuubi spoke. "Just don't show too much." Gladly, he thought. Kiba had charged straight for Naruto using a family jutsu that made him more beast-like. Naruto simply sidestepped and threw a kunai at the Inuzuka that missed him by a hair's length. "Missed me dead last," Kiba shouted as he prepared for a second attack. He stopped in his tracks when Naruto held up a hand. "Answer something for me, Kiba." Naruto spoke. "What, trying to draw this out?" Kiba asked cockily. Naruto said nothing, he just glared at the air as he walked around him in a circle. "What do you know about foxes?" Naruto asked as he kept walking. "You come from a canine clan, you must know a bit." Many of the adults tensed in the room as Naruto spoke, unsure of how to act. The law kept them from speaking on it, not that it stopped many of them, but not the blonde. "Of course I do," Kiba assured as he kept his eye on Naruto. "Foxes are canines that are. Not the boring stuff," Naruto stated. "They are tied into many lore." "There we go." Naruto smiled. "Now, what do most of the legends entail a fox doing?" "Pulling pranks." "Exactly," Naruto shouted. "Do you know how?" He didn't wait for an answer. "It's because we're clever." He pulled his arm pretty tightly, causing an invisible force to bind Kiba. "What is this?" he asked in panic. "What did you do?" He was answered when a ninja wire came into view. It had been a genjutsu. "You let me catch you with a low-ranked camouflage genjutsu," Naruto answered. "This won't stop me," Kiba declared. "Finish it," Kyuubi ordered. Harem jutsu. Kiba found himself surrounded by an array of naked women. Being the supposed hound dog that he was, he did the expected thing. He fainted with a nosebleed. "I think I won," Naruto chuckled. The proctor was unable to speak as he nursed his nosebleed, as well as every other man in the room. Naruto made his way up the stairs and met his brother. They stared at each other before Menma began laughing. "You're as clever as a fox," Menma stated before becoming serious. "Just be wary of the cunning snake." After that, they went their own ways. Menma to their mother's side and Naruto to Hinata's. "Uzumaki, that jutsu was very degrading," Kurenai stated with a harsh glare. "Not my fault it's effective," Naruto countered. Naruto. Hinata stuttered. "Please say don't." She was cut off when Naruto placed a hand on her chin and raised her head to meet his gaze. It was warm and it made her feel strong. "What were you saying, Hinata-chan?" Naruto asked warmly. Hinata smiled as she spoke. "Please don't use that jutsu again, it was offensive." "Okay." Kurenai was amazed at what she just saw. Just like that? She thought. He got her to stop stuttering and be assertive, just like that. She was beginning to think he wasn't so bad. Neji versus Hinata. Naruto noticed her freeze up at the selection of her name. He placed a comforting hand onto her shoulder and gave her a word of encouragement. "Would the competitors please come down?" The proctor spoke. "Do your best, Hinata-chan." Naruto encouraged. Neji and Hinata stared off at each other, their bloodline activated. "You should give up now." Neji spoke. "A weakling like you will never win." "No," she stated firmly, shocking the male Hyuga. "I can't give up," she thought. Naruto is watching. She couldn't bear it if he thought she was weak. Hinata did the uncharacteristic thing, she attacked first. She gave an open palm thrust towards her cousin, who barely dodged. He returned the attack, only for Hinata to dodge as well. This is how the battle of Hyugas went, their hit barely grazing each other. But that was enough. Then, Neji delivered a blow that caused Hinata to stagger. "You see," he stated, as if he weren't hurt. "You were fated to be weak, which is why you are." "Don't listen," Naruto called out. "Come on, Hinata, show him how wrong he is." Naruto saw her strain to pick herself up and continue the fight. But as it progressed, Hinata began to falter while Neji continued his assault on her. "I can't keep this up," Hinata thought. Her chakra control was failing her. "It seems that you noticed." Neji spoke. "I've been sealing your coils." He turned to the proctor. "This fight is over, end it before she dies." No," Hinata shouted. "I'm still standing." As soon as the words left her mouth, she fell to the ground and began coughing blood. The proctor called the match in Neji's favor. Kurenai-sensei. Naruto spoke. Why does Neji have such hostility against Hinata-chan? Neji is a part of the branch, servants to the main branch. She answered. Though they're more like slaves. When she was younger, she was kidnapped. The Chunin explained. No one knows how she was saved, but her mother lost her life in the ordeal. She never noticed him tense at her words. In his anger, Hiyashi killed the intruder instead of allowing him to be interrogated. So he was punished? Naruto asked. No, Kurenai sighed. Cloud would have declared war on us for killing their shinobi without evidence, so they gave a choice. The head of the Hyuga that killed their shinobi, or war. But Hiyashi is alive, and we aren't at war? Naruto spoke. I know, she stated. They gave them Hiyashi's twin brother, Neji's father. Neji, as well as everyone else, had heard the Junin's words. It only reminded him of why he hated the main branch, as well as Hinata. That he was a slave to them and to her. Hinata forced herself to stand as best she could and looked at her cousin with sadness. I'm sorry Neji-kun. She stuttered from pain. I want to end the seal and you unite the branch and main clans. She smiled lovingly at her cousin. I want to change fate. The words had the opposite effect on her fellow Hyuga. He charged with the intent to kill. The Chunin intended to jump in the way of the assault, but were beat to the punch by Naruto. The ground he stood on burned under him and around Hinata protectively. Naruto stared at Hinata, before turning a hate-filled glare at Neji. You hate her for something she had no control over. Naruto growled. Something she herself hates. What would you know? Neji asked venomously. I know more than you can imagine. Naruto stated. Trash like you can't imagine my pain. Neji snapped. To bear a burden placed on you and suffer. You're just a fool abandoned by his family and fated to stay a weakling and awe. Neji fell to the ground and convulsed in pain. Watch your tongue Neji. Hinata spoke. All eyes turned to the kind Hyuga heiress who wore a mask of cold indifference. Her hands were in a sign that forced the seal on Neji to activate. I allowed you to release your hate on me. She stated coldly. I allowed you to win this fight. I even allowed you a chance of love, but you spat on it. She then put on the Hyuga's sneer. I won't allow you to badmouth my Naruto-kun. Her coldness is kind of hot. Naruto thought. Wait, did she say, her Naruto-kun? Kyuubi asked with a smirk. Not the time. Hinata-sama. Neji wailed. That only angered the kind Hinata. It's Sama now is it? What happened to weakling? She snarled. Did you finally remember that I could have ended this farce of a fight at any time I wanted? She would have continued to cause her cousin pain, had Naruto not placed his lips on hers. Gently, he spread her hands, breaking the seal. There, all better. Naruto stated. No. Hinata mumbled, her head down. More. What? I want more. She shouted as she tore her jacket open, revealing a mesh shirt covering her assets. I waited all of puberty for this, I'm not waiting longer. She tackled him down and straddled his waist. Now lie back and think of ramen. Her eyes closed as she fell asleep on him. What just happened? Naruto asked from under her. Anko, proctor from the second exam answered. You were almost ruined for marriage by the Hyuga girl before she passed out from her wounds. Should I be happy or pissed? Naruto asked. Both. Anko answered. Both. Kyuubi answered. I'll take her to the infirmary. Kurenai spoke. Naruto would have preferred to follow Kurenai and be with Hinata, but the next fight stopped him. Menma vs Kabuto. He couldn't pass up a chance to see his brother in action, especially if he would be fighting him. He noticed Kushina making her way to him. Watch closely demon. She smirked. You're about to see why he will be the one to kill. Let's end this. Menma spoke. Neither of us wants the other in the way of their real target. Okay. Kabuto spoke, unsure of his opponent. Why was Orochimaru-sama wary of this child? Menma made the first move. Menma started by forming a massive concentration of rotating chakra in his hand. He held the attack over his head for all to see and marvel at. Is that? Kakashi began in disbelief as Kushina nodded. He is very skilled. Kakashi complimented. He's been trained since birth to do his duty. Kushina stated. His godparents and I have held nothing back in his training. I don't know what that is. Kabuto lied, everyone knew. But don't think I'll let it hit me. They watched as Kabuto's hand began glowing with chakra of their own as he prepared to fight. Menma and Kabuto charged each other, both with hands full of death. Menma had thrust his hand at Kabuto, who barely ducked under it. He attempted backhand swipe at Menma's throat. The attack connected, only for Menma to go up in a puff of smoke. "Where are you?" Kabuto asked, on guard. From his shadow, several chakra chains erupted and bound him before he could react. The audience marveled as the shadow seemed to inflate and out popped Menma. "That move, one of Jiraiya's," Kushina stated. "Toad flatness, shadow manipulation technique. You've got a real prodigy on your hands," Kakashi stated. "Minato-sensei would be proud." Kushina said nothing. Menma began forming another Rasengan in his hand as Kabuto continued to struggle. "Surrender," Menma ordered. "This attack will be impossible to dodge at this range and with you bound like that." "Fine, I concede," Kabuto spoke. "That was truly amazing, Menma." Kakashi spoke. "You'll be able to." "What was that?" Kushina asked hotly. "What?" Menma asked confused. "I won." "That was showing off," Kushina snapped. "Hiding away and having a clone take the hit." She spat. "Your clone should have been able to finish him. If it can't do that, how will you kill the demon?" Menma said nothing as he lowered his head. "I think it was impressive." Naruto spoke. "Thanks," Menma mumbled with a growing smile. He returned it, before smirking. It was very fox-like. Both Kushina and Kakashi turned a heated glare to the blonde. Menma only smiled and nodded to Naruto. "Now that the preliminaries are over, I want you all to draw lots." The Hokage spoke. "In 1 month, the finales will take place and decide who's ready for a promotion." They did. Menma vs Neji. Temari vs Shikamaru. Kankuro vs Shino. Naruto vs Gaara. Sasuke vs winner. "Now that you know your opponents, prepare." The proctor spoke. With that, the remaining genin left with their respective teachers. All but Naruto, who stayed and stared at the Hokage. "Is something wrong, Naruto-kun?" he asked kindly. "Foxes don't like to be bitten," Naruto stated. "They bite back." With that, he walked away while whistling a tune that had haunted the village leader's dreams for years. It seemed like a simple lullaby, but it was so much more. He still remembers the words that chilled him to the bone after all that time. Kyuubi will start all over again. The chill was no warmer than it was then. "Come on, lady, just tell me what room she's in." Naruto spoke, highly annoyed. "The faster I visit her, the faster I can leave. It's not like I enjoy being in a hospital," he thought. "I told you, boy," the receptionist sneered. "You aren't welcomed here." For the last 10 minutes, Naruto had been trying to find Hinata. He wanted to visit her and see how she felt, but he was having difficulties. "Your nose is before your eyes, so trust it first," Kyuubi advised, before falling silent. It took Naruto a moment to decipher the message, something the old him would never have been able to do. "You know what, I think I'll just find her myself," Naruto spoke. His eyes flashed into their feral fox-like form, scaring the nurse. He took a deep breath. A fox's nose over 200 million scent receptors in their nose. They could not only tell where a person or animal is, but where they might have been. Naruto, being a magical fox, had even more. Past all of the sterile chemicals and sanitized equipment, he picked up her scent. Lilacs and jasmine, he thought pleasantly, with a hint of ramen. No reason to wait around. When Naruto had found her, she had a distant look in her eyes. She hadn't even noticed him appear. He easily slipped into the room and closed the door, locking. She still hadn't noticed him. Nearly every part of him was urging for him to pull a prank on her, as was his new nature, but he wouldn't. This was Hinata, he would never prank her. "Is something wrong?" he asked. She turned to look at him and jumped in shock. "Naruto." "Hinata," he replied with a smile. "How are you feeling?" Fine," she answered. "No, you're not," Naruto stated as he reached out and placed a hand onto her side, causing her to flinch. "Why haven't they healed you yet?" Fat Thayer ordered for most of my coils to remain closed. Hinata whimpers. "He wants to punish me for losing to a B-branch member." "So he wants you to suffer?" Naruto asked, anger boiling. "Stay calm." He took a deep breath as his anger subsided. "I wouldn't be here if I wasn't so weak." With that, the dam burst and her tears came out. Naruto immediately pulled her into a hug and held her close as she cried into his chest. "Hinata, you are far from weak." Naruto spoke soothingly. "You gave it your all, and that's all anyone can ever ask of a person." "But if I had used the seal?" He pulled her tighter, silencing her. Using a seal on a person, like a slave, doesn't make you weak. He smiles at her. It makes you the kind vixen I'm falling for. Hinata blushed harder than ever as she replayed the words in her head. He thinks I'm a vixen? He's falling for me. Naruto-kun. Hinata-chan. There was nothing more to say as their lips connected. What was short and simple quickly deepened as their feelings grew, powering the kiss. It was one of, if not the, best moment of their young life to date. It would most likely have gone further if Naruto hadn't pulled back, much to Hinata's disappointment. How are you feeling now? He asked. Fine, she answered. Better actually. She activated her bloodline to examine herself. How? Her coils were all opened and most of her other wounds were almost completely healed. Other than a few strained muscles, she felt like she wouldn't have noticed anything was wrong. Naruto only smiled at his work. Kitsune are able to heal themselves through exploits, even something as small as kissing. So it was no problem for a fully healed Naruto to heal Hinata. Just another quirk, Kyuubi piped. Naruto and Hinata, who had been dismissed, were walking around Konoha Spring. While she wanted him to train, he wanted nothing more than to spend time with her. You don't have to do this. Hinata spoke. You should be training for the finals. I will. Naruto assured. I just want to help you relax. They came to a stop. This one is yours. Naruto stated as he opened the door. The room had been entirely emptied by Naruto so Hinata could have her privacy. The pool was filled with several different muscle-relaxing herbs, meant for her. She began slowly undressing, much to his shock, not minding that Naruto was there. She blushed at the thought of him seeing her naked. I hope he likes my body. She thought. She was the most developed from their age group. He stopped her when he heard a giggling sound. From her face, Naruto assumed Hinata heard it as well. I'll be back. Naruto spoke. Naruto stood on top of the wall that separated the baths from each other. He stared down at a white-haired man who was looking through a peephole. Usually Naruto wouldn't care about that. He was a pervert by nature now himself, but there was one problem. The hole the man was looking through led to Hinata's spring. If you hadn't stopped her, he would be seeing Hinata. Kyuubi stated. We can't have that. No, we can't. He agreed. Hey pervert. He shouted for all to hear. She's underage. The white-haired pervert froze at the declaration. That was only half true. She was legally an adult when she earned the headband, but he didn't know that. Before he knew it, he was surrounded by several angry women. You've gone too far this time, Jiraiya. One of them spoke. Usually they just beat him with their hands and feet until he fell unconscious. This time, they were brandishing makeshift weapons. Wait, I can explain. He begged. Naruto stood above the fray with a cold smile on his face. That body is for my eyes only. He thought perversely. He jumped back into the pool where a confused Hinata stood. All taken care of, he assured. After their time in the springs, Naruto decided to escort Hinata around. He wanted to spend as much time with her, make up for the lost years. There's so many ideas that he had thought of before frowning, which he hid from her. Hey Hinata-chan, I'm going to have to cut our time short. He stated sadly. Something has just came up. She didn't understand, but decided to let him go. She watched as Naruto took off running in a random direction. Naruto had run all the way to a wooded area, isolated from the rest of the village. There he found a fox. He began petting it. Alright, come on out. Naruto shouted as he left the fox alone. I'm impressed. The mystery man spoke. It was the same man from the springs, the one that had been spying on Hinata. I know of him. Kyuubi spoke before sending him a bit of information. What do you want, Jiraiya? Naruto spoke. He seemed shocked when Naruto spoke his name, before gaining a large smile. He ignored how Naruto pushed the fox away. Oh, so you've heard of me? He asked proud. Yes, it is I. Cut to the chase. Naruto spoke. What do you want? Well, I was hoping you'd allow me to train you. He stated. And why would I do that? Naruto asked. Just a little more fox. Because I'm one of the 3 legendary ninja. Jiraiya boasted. The last ninja I trained became Hokage. He stated. I want to see what a second student can do. No. Naruto answered. What? The Sannin was shocked at the answer. You're lying. Naruto stated. Don't try to trick a fox. A fox? Jiraiya questioned. Fine, the reason I want to train you is because you're my godson. He's still hiding something. Naruto thought. Let's see where this goes. What will you teach me? Naruto asked. Firstly, what do you know? Jiraiya asked. I can work around that. Can you teach me the Rasengan? Naruto asked. Or let me sign my dad's summoning contract. Well, can you tap into your tenant source? Jiraiya asked with a slight change of tone that Naruto caught before he could hide. You'll need more chakra for the contract, and control for the Rasengan. What can Menma do? Naruto asked. Trying to gain info on your opponent? Jiraiya asked. Just trying to even the playing field. Naruto replied. After all, you did help train him to kill me. What, you think I don't know what this is? Naruto asked. The interrogation of my skills, just for Menma to have a slight edge. I assure you that I am doing this because of guilt of being a terrible godfather? Naruto pushed. Tell me, where were you when I was alone in this village? I have a spy network that I have to maintain. Jiraiya quickly answered. It keeps me busy. Too busy to visit me once? Naruto asked calmly. Yet you had the time to teach Menma your jutsu. This isn't what sensei said about him. Jiraiya thought. He's supposed to be a clueless, happy-go-lucky brat. Naruto, show me your stomach. Jiraiya ordered. I need an adult. Naruto stated. It finally occurred to Jiraiya that something was going on. It was thanks to what he thought was the fox's uncoordinated movements. They were very coordinated. What's with that fox? The sage asked. Naruto cracked a smile as he answered. He motioned for the fox to start walking away. Look at the fox, now back to me. Naruto ordered. Now look back at the fox, back to me. He released his henge. I'm not this fox. I'm a kitsune, back to the fox. He ordered back in his normal form. Now look at the ground, back to me. On the ground was an explosive seal. I'm not even Naruto, I'm a clone and I'm about to blow us both to hell. Wait, Jiraiya begged. What the H? The fox went up in smoke. He never got to finish as the clone set off the explosion. Naruto watched the foxes from a safe distance away. Good boy. Naruto cooed the creature, causing it to growl. Good girl? Hiruzen saw the explosion through his crystal ball from the confines of his office. It brought back memories. It was similar to how Naruto had saved Hinata. Hello Hokage-sama. A voice spoke. Naruto? Hiruzen spoke. What are you doing here? I came to ask you not to send your students after me. Naruto spoke. And to ask you one question. Which is? Hiruzen asked. Why? Why what? Don't play games. Naruto growled. Why did you keep the knowledge from me? Tell me, strip me of my memories and then leave me out to dry. I did what was best. The cage spoke. Best for everyone but the scapegoat. Naruto spoke. I have my memories back as well as Kyuubi. What? The elderly man paled. We're going to make them pay. Naruto promised. Everyone who wronged us, we'll make them pay. I can't let you do that, Naruto. The Hokage stated. I will stop you. Do what you have to. Naruto waved. The aged leader watched at the blonde left through the window. Hiruzen's gaze wandered from the blonde to the village, or what was left of it. His beautiful village was in complete ruins. The village was in a state of chaos. He had not seen such things since the wars. There were so many fires everywhere that it practically consumed the village. The shinobi were actually in the middle of battle against foxes, which fought like Inuzuka companions. The civilians were just torn to shreds by the beasts. He turned to look for the blonde, only to see a giant, nine-tailed fox. The beast stared at him with utter contempt as the old man could only return the gaze in fear. The beast opened its mouth, but not to roar. It was to speak. I'll start all over again. Then he woke up. Just a dream. He tried telling himself, only to stop. No, genjutsu. It was a powerful one, easily one of the best he had ever seen. Even with all of his experience, he hadn't noticed it being placed on him. He doubted he'd have been able to escape it himself, or even realize he was in one. No time to dwell. He mentally stated with a shake of his head. It's time to act. He snapped his finger, summoning on of his Anbu. Tenzo, go after him. The Hokage spoke. We need to reapply the seal. Naruto hadn't gotten far before he felt the chakra signature of someone following him. But it wasn't the Anbu he had been anticipating. He was shocked when a pair of chakra chains wrapped themselves around his leg. He was pulled with too much force to gain control of himself. Naruto could only brace himself for the impact to the ground. What are you up to, Naruto? Menma asked as he retracted his chains. Oh, you know. Naruto grunted as he stood. This and that. Naruto. She warned. Listen, let's do this some other time. Naruto begged. I'm in A. Before he finished his statement, half a dozen Anbu appeared and surrounded the two. Naruto Uzumaki. An Anbu spoke. You will come with us. Rush. He finished with a sigh. Naruto walked to one of the Anbu and pulled him into a one-armed hug. Come on, just say you couldn't find me. Naruto pleaded. It's not like it's the first time you Anbu act. He was silenced when the Anbu pulled his arm into a painful grip. By order of Hokage-sama, you are under arrest, he stated. The blonde gave a sigh before using the replacement technique. He switched himself with a log that had a branch in place of him arm. It didn't have to be like this, Naruto informed. Boom. He pointed to the spot on the Anbu where he had placed him arm during his hug. There was an explosive tag that was going off. The Anbu reacted frantically and never had a chance to remove the piece of paper. Instead of dying in a flash of fire, he lived. He was covered in a sticky substance that restricted his movement. Brat, one shouted as he lunged. The Anbu was caught in a chakra chain and tossed into one of his comrades. Both stunned by the surprise attack, they never had a chance to avoid the sticky note Naruto threw at them. 3 down, 3 to go. Menma stated. You're helping me? Naruto asked confused. Only I get to kill you. Menma stated. I don't want you savagely beaten when I do. I almost feel bad about this. Naruto stated. Feel bad ab. Menma was silenced when he saw a cloud of smoke where his brother once was. He was silenced by the Anbu dog pile. And then I dispelled my clone. Naruto stated as he finished his story. He and Hinata were resting in one of the few spots he enjoyed. On top of the Hokage monument, the fourth's head to be specific. As much as he had mixed feelings, it was still an impressive view. That wasn't very nice, Naru-kun. Hinata stated. It sounds like he really wanted to help you. For his own gain, remember? Yes, she answered sadly. What will you do now? Train, Naruto answered. I need to get stronger, can't risk the old man trying anything. How will you train with everyone out to get you? I have a sensei that will train me to continue using my kitsune arts. Naruto stated. I still don't know the full story behind that. She stated, causing him to freeze. It's okay, you can tell me when you're ready. Can I tell her? He asked himself. The choice is yours, Naruto. Kyuubi stated. Though I trust her. Naruto didn't need long to think on it. She had been loyal friend for a long time. Even when he couldn't remember her. Let me tell about myself. Naruto began. On the day of my birth, the Kyuubi. Naruto looked at the beauty in him arms. He carried her to her clan compound, never letting her awaken from her sleep. She had actually cried herself to sleep after hearing his story. He didn't like to see her cry. He couldn't do anything about the story making her cry, but he could do something about a person that did. Hiyashi and the arrogant Hyugas, he could do something about them. He would, but not now. For now, he needed to train. Come Naruto, there is much for you to learn in the way of the kitsune. Kyuubi spoke. It was finally here, the day of the final exams. And Hinata was in complete peace. She had not seen Naruto since he had dropped her off at the clan compound that night. That did not mean he had left her empty-handed. When she had awoken, she had found herself surrounded by gifts. Such as a large amounts of home-made cinnamon buns of different flavors. She has shown very little restraint in devouring them after the first bite. The best, though the Sini buns were close, was a small white fox by the name of Coco. The fox talked, which hadn't surprised her half as much as it should have, and was very kind. They had become fast friends. She made Hinata smile when she was down from sheer cuteness and growled fiercely against people who made unwanted advancements towards her. Such as a snobbish Hyuga elder or a horny Kiba. Coco seemed to know something about Naruto. Whenever Hinata asked about his locations, all she got was, he's training, from the fox. Now it was time to see where that training led. Hinata made her way to a front row seat that had been reserved for her by an unknown source. It was away from the Hyuga clan and other, noble families of the village, that irked her. Though she was lucky to be seated next to her sensei, Kuranai. Her teammate Kiba was not around while Shino was participating in the tournament. The combatants were down there and about to begin. Though a few people were missing, such as the Uchiha and Sound Nen, but more importantly Naruto. Ko-chan, do you think that Naruto-kun will make some kind of grand entrance? Hinata asked. Knowing him, we won't ever expect it. Coco answered before turning to the sensei. Is something wrong, Kuranai-san? Just getting used to talking foxes. She stated. Good practice for when Akamaru starts talking like other Inuzuka dogs. The Junin excused herself for a moment before heading off. Lady Hinata. A voice called. Hinata turned to see that it was a Hyuga escort. Specifically, it was the one who had taken her from Naruto when they were little. She never did forgive him for that. Yes? She answered. I was told to escort you from here towards the Hyuga section. He took a look at the fox in her lap. Animals are not permitted. No thank you. Hinata replied. I am fine in here. I must insist you leave that beast and come. He was cut off by Coco. She said she's fine here. The fox growled. Unless you want me to bite the family jewels, you'll listen. Hello. A new voice greeted. Is there a problem here? The fox and Hyugas turned to see a man take Hinata's sensei's place. He was large, with a full foot in height on the escort. He had his hands on a kunai pouch. No sir. The Hyuga sneered before leaving. The stranger looked at Hinata and gave a kind smile. I never liked stuck-up people. He stated as he sat down. "Eescu say me." She spoke, her stutter returning. That seat I is taken. Much to her shock, Coco had jumped into the stranger's lap. Well, it seems your friend here doesn't mind. He chuckled. Hinata was at a loss. She was in the company of a stranger, yet her friend had just abandoned her to his side. I guess I'll trust her judgment. Hinata thought. Looks like the first match is starting. He spoke. Hinata looked down to see that it was Neji versus Menma. Let the first match, Neji Hyuga versus Menma Namikaze, begin. The proctor shouted before leaving. Neji and Menma eyed each other before the Hyuga spoke. You should surrender, he advised. Fate has declared me the winner. How so? Menma asked. Did fate come and tell you that your win was inevitable? I am a Hyuga. He spoke arrogantly. I am prodigy from a clan that holds great power in this village. Wrong. Memna spoke. You are a slave to a clan that's too stuck in their ways that they're destroying themselves. And power, politics mean nothing in a fight, and your eyes do all the work. He smiled at his reasoning. You should forfeit by all logic. The Hyuga clan fumed at having his ideals turned against him. Only Hinata took his words to heart because she understood his words were true. What would someone like you know about my clan? Neji asked in outrage. Plenty. Menma answered. I understand tradition and respect it. My clan has plenty, but that's no reason to stop progress. A thought struck him. Now that I think about it, the Uchiha are better at their traditions. All they have to do is master a fireball jutsu. The rest are their own skills. He motioned to the ground. Hell, all I have to do is keep you away from me and your techniques are useless. To prove his point, Menma withdrew a handful of shuriken. He threw them towards the Hyuga, who merely sidestepped them. As if chakra chains burst from the ground, surprising the Hyuga. He was able to jump back and avoid being bound. All-seeing eye my butt. Menma taunted. Get nice and angry. As if this will stop your fate. Neji shouted. Neji watched as Menma swayed his chains around, like tentacles. This kept the Hyuga at bay, but he wouldn't be deterred. Coating his hand in chakra, Neji pushed forward. Each chain that attempted to strike him was knocked away, if only barely. It was obvious he wouldn't be able to keep the chains at bay for too long. You talk about fate, yet you've tried to change yours. Menma spoke. Hinata's heir to a clan, destined to rule over all Hyuga, even you. Especially you, branch member. Shut up. That one spout of anger. That one moment of distraction. That was all it took to cost Neji the match. He was quickly bound from head to toe by the chakra chains. With just a twitch, I can tear you to shreds, Hyuga. Menma assured. Forfeit. Never. Neji shouted as he struggled. I am fated to win, I am awe. Menma had had enough of the ranting. Using a lot of pressure, he began squeezing the Hyuga with his chains. They crushed a few bones and nearly caused serious internal damage, but it didn't get that far. The sudden bout of great pain was too much for Neji. He collapsed from it. Menma made his way towards the defeated Hyuga. You should thank me. Menma spoke. And my brother. He thought to himself. I wouldn't normally step into clan affairs. The Uzumaki Namikaze bent down towards the Hyuga. Reaching into his pocket, he pulled out a paper with a seal on it. He placed it onto the Hyuga's cage seal. And they both faded. Winner, Menma. The crowd went crazy. Neji. Hinata whispered. He'll be fine. The stranger said. That seal just removed the one that made him a slave. How do you know that? Hinata asked with no stutter. His seal faded, didn't you see? He answered, making Hinata blush with embarrassment. It's okay. A lot of people don't seem to understand what's going on. But, why would he do that? Hinata asked. What does he have to gain? I made a deal with Naruto. A voice from behind answered. Men NMA-san. Hinata spoke. He's good, I never noticed him get here, and so quickly. Hello Hyuga-chan. He greeted. Menma. Kushina called harshly. You said you made a deal with Naruto-kun. Koko spoke from the stranger's lap. Kushina cast the fox a glare which Koko returned with a growl. Hinata began petting her in hopes of calming her down. You seem to enjoy the company of those beasts. Kushina spoke. A word of warning, stay away from their kind. They're nothing but trouble. True. Koko agreed. We are trouble, to those who earn our ire. Men NMA. Hinata spoke, hoping to get an answer from him. Yes, in exchange for a seal freeing his and I quote, Hinataheim's no good, fate thumping Kusan, unquote, I get a private fight. Menma answered, not bothered by a talking fox. But you can fight him here. Kushina stated. Why isn't that good enough? Because I want no interruptions when I take his head from his shoulders. Menma answered as he turned to sit. Plus, what will happen today will make it a bad one for Vendetta. He thought to himself. The next match is starting. Gaara and Naruto Uzumaki, come down. The proctor spoke. Wait, isn't the Nara supposed to fight? Koko asked. He just forfeited. The stranger answered. So did the sand shinobi with the makeup. If Naruto-kun were here, he would have gotten Shikamaru to fight. Hinata stated. He'd probably knock him in by accident. Who is this Naruto? He asked. Is he someone special? Hinata didn't take a moment to answer. He's the most special person in the world to me. Oh, sounds like you like him a lot. The man chucked. Hinata blushed fiercely before speaking. I do, no, I truly love him. Would Naruto and Gaara come down? The referee called. Your fight is about to begin. Alright Hinata-chan, the stranger shouted. Watch and cheer for me. The stranger stood on the railing before jumping down. As he fell, flames engulfed him and began changing him. The falling ball of fire crashed into the ground and formed a small pillar. Out stepped Naruto. He wore a large jacket similar to the one his father wore. The difference was that instead of white, it was red with blue flames designed in the bottom and wrist links. On the back was a kanji for Kitsune in black. He wore matching shinobi pants, his shirt was the only source of orange. Around his neck was a necklace with a small orb that had a three-sided star. The main differences were his features. His eyes were in their feral fox-like form with red irises. His nails on both hands and feet were now claws. Lastly was that he now had 3 tails and showed them openly. Naruto-kun, Hinata shouted in shock. This whole time he has been beside me. She thought as her blush began reaching a new level of red. I confessed to him as a stranger. Yep, tricky as ever. Koko spoke. You knew? Hinata asked her companion with a small hint of anger. Why didn't you tell me? He wore a disguise and didn't tell you himself. I wasn't going to blow his cover. Koko answered with a growing smirk. Besides, you should have known he'd play something sneaky. Yes, Hinata agreed. It is Naruto. So, he's showing his true colors. Kushina muttered before turning to Hinata. Watch and see. Yes Hinata-chan, watch. Koko spoke. The Tanuki and Kitsune have always been rivals, let's see where our blonde stands. Mother wants your blood Uzumaki. Gaara spoke. Namikaze. The blonde corrected. I renounce the name of my mother and take the one of my father. Call yourself what you want. Gaara spoke. It makes no difference. The match between Naruto Namikaze and Gaara of the Sand, begin. The proctor spoke before jumping away. The name sparked a large murmur in the audience. Even in death, Minato left a name and legacy for all to speak of. Naruto and Gaara stood before each other, neither making a move. The Tanuki, as Koko stated, are rivals. Both were tricksters and fierce beasts. Truly, the only difference was the tail. Kitsune earned their tails, it had nothing to do with power, it was all skill and ability. While Naruto possessed 3, it meant nothing in front of an average Tanuki. Though this isn't an average one. Naruto thought. This is Shikaku, one of the tailed beasts. Gaara released the sand from his gourd and allowed it to swarm around him like a pool. Naruto began copying the action with fire and formed a whirlpool around his feet. Naruto began the fight and struck first. Fox style. Fox fire. He released a greenish-blue fire from his palm at Gaara. The sand raised and blocked the fire from the Tanuki host. The fire fought with the wall wave that protected Gaara before it was consumed by the fire. It didn't stop there. The sand continued on its way towards the blonde like a train. Naruto jumped back a few yards, but the sand continued on, only growing in size. He continued to jump until he was only a few feet from the arena wall. Now, Naruto mentally shouted, "Fox style. Will-o-wisp." Naruto extended all three of his tails and a ball of fire sparked at the end of them. They each flame took on the form of a burning fox head. Each flew from Naruto's tail before colliding with each other and formed a large, single head. He began weaving seals. Wind style. Great breakthrough. The wind consumed the fox fire only to feed it. It increased the fox head until it was large enough to match the oncoming bullet train of sand. Instead of colliding and struggling for power as it did before, the fire consumed the sand. It traveled down the sand, making its way towards Gaara. The sand shinobi waved his hand and more sand erupted from the base, stopping and extinguishing the fire before it could reach him. "Is that all?" Gaara asked in monotone. Naruto began tapping the cooling sand, drawing Gaara's attention to it. All of it was turned to glass. "Not much you can do without that sand, is there?" Naruto asked as he charged forward. "You're starting to bore me." Gaara spoke, stopping Naruto in his tracks. The statement both confused Naruto and put him on edge. With most of his sand in glass form, he should be worried about his defenses. The glass shattered like an eruption, stunning Naruto, as it returned into its usual sand form. A stray strand wrapped itself around Naruto's foot. Raising his leg and throwing him off balance, he could do little to stop the blow of sand that drove into his stomach like boulder. Sand coffin. They began wrapping around Naruto, consuming the blonde. Gaara was preparing for his signature attack. Multi-shadow clone jutsu. Naruto began to multiply under the sand prison. The increasing number of blondes began adding pressure against the sand. Gaara added more chakra, crushing some, but Naruto was multiplying too fast. They began clawing their way free before they finally broke loose. Once out of the sand, they began scattering. There were 14 Narutos in total. "He's tougher than I expected," Naruto thought. "It seems that Naruto is having some trouble." Koko spoke. "He'll win," Hinata stated, assured in his victory. "He'd better," Menma muttered. "I've got to be the one to kill him." Several of Gaara's sand tendrils rushed towards Naruto, intending to impale him. Each of Naruto's clones ran to the side, ignored by the sand and its user, as the sand searched for the original. The sand stopped mere inches from Naruto's skin, blocked by the flames that protected the blonde. Naruto smirked as his eyes met with Gaara's. Fox style. Burning fox wheel. Naruto began coating himself entirely in his flames. The fire began rotating around like a wheel. This jutsu was similar to the Akamichi, human boulder, technique. But instead of fat, he used fire. Naruto began charging the sand shinobi, protected by his flaming armor. The sand tried to pierce and consume the burning blonde, but would turn to glass and shatter as he plowed through them. Mix a little Choji attack and Gaara defense and you've got a heck of a defense used as an offense. Naruto thought proudly. Sand tsunami. Gaara created a wave of sand, larger than any Naruto has seen him use before. With the amount used, Naruto wasn't sure if his defensive offense would be able to withstand it. As Naruto came down, Gaara formed a dome to protect himself. Naruto began spinning, similar to Lee's leaf hurricane kick, only on fire. His foot came in contact with the sand, turning it into glass. With a quick and powerful release of chakra, he shattered the glass. Using his momentum, he continued on spinning. With the added momentum, he delivered a searing blow towards Gaara's face. The punch didn't just burn the sand host. On contact, Naruto released his flame to consume Gaara in a powerful explosion. In stands. Yes, Hinata shouted in joy. She quickly began blushing when she realized she was the only one cheering for Naruto. Everyone else was in an awe of silence. Not only that, she had thrown Koko to the ground when she had jumped to cheer. Cage booth. It seems that your blonde shinobi is quite resourceful. The case cage stated. An impressive display of power. Yes, Naruto has always been full of surprises. Hiruzen spoke. Well, my son Gaara is powerful as well. The sand leader spoke, and just as surprising, the smoke began clearing, giving everyone a good view of the sand shinobi. He was still standing, if only barely, on shaky legs. Naruto took a look at his fellow host to see that he was covered in glass. A large crack on his face where Naruto had delivered the blow. Damn, forgot about that sand armor. Naruto thought. Interesting. Gaara shouted maniacally as the glass fell away. More, make me feel alive. Naruto began another attack, only to stop when he saw something strange. White feathers began falling from the sky. Not just in the arena with the contestants, but in the entire Colosseum. A genjutsu, the non-shinobi began falling to asleep under its effects. He faintly heard an explosion in the background. The invasion has begun. That's all for now. If you enjoy, then please like, share and do comments.